United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, our first order of business is a 6:30 appointment with Larry Berger of Pink & Company to discuss a change order for the Pine Grove School construction project. Larry, you got the floor.
Okay, I think everybody has in their package.
Larry, why don't you sit up here, because sometimes people have trouble hearing if this doesn't
Okay.
go that
Now,
way.
let me read something before you get started here.
Okay, sure.
Larry is here today to discuss a change order related to necessary work in the all-purpose room at the Pine Grove School. The change order involves unexpected work in the all-purpose room due to the conditions of the current structural supports. The contractor has discovered that the existing columns are unusable and need to be replaced due to termite damage. These columns are significant structural components of the all-purpose room. Attached is a copy of the change order, which details the scope of work to be done, including sketches, the last 2 pages from the structural engineer. The change order amount is $353,502. Joe Perry discussed this work with Larry Berger during Friday's construction meeting. This change order needs to be approved very soon so work in the all-purpose room is not delayed. Also, this work was discussed at the last PGS building committee, but the cost estimate, the actual scope of work, was not complete at that time. The Triton School District has an existing contract with a pest control company, McGuire Pest and Termite Control. The contractor will be using this company to rid the area of the termites. Larry expects the cost to be approximately $1,900 for this service. This termite work will not need to be procured because it will be coming on the existing pest control contract held by Triton. Larry also just submitted a request for approval for technology. See the attached Raptor Technologies quote. The board will need to vote to approve this purchase before we can issue a purchase order. Okay, Larry, sorry.
No, so it's okay. As the first order of business, the change order for dealing with the AP room columns. What I want to point out to everybody is this particular change order reflects the structural component of the repairs. There will still be, after the structural repairs are completed, there will be an architectural addition to deal with, I'll say, masking the infrastructure that has been put in as part of this work. It's just an architectural details to
Cover it up.
yes, and to make it so that there isn't any. It's more aesthetically pleasing at the same time. If somebody's sitting against the bench, they're not sitting against some exposed steel and things of that nature. Because the repairs are a combination of additional steel as well as taking out the wood glue lamps supports that have been compromised and replacing them with reinforced concrete. What we call legs. They're going to cut the existing columns off at roughly 5 feet, and then they will pour it back with a combination of concrete and steel, and then that particular fix is then wrapped in additional steel to support the work that is below. That is below the existing column. The one tricky part of the building is the way it is tied together structurally. There are a series of turnbuckles in the floor that keep the building in tension. And what's happened is that potentially certain columns are no longer in the tension that they should be because their support has been eaten away by the termites. And we will be, the correction will put it back into tension. The change order has, several components, but quickly there's a steel component, there's a demolition component, and then there's a shoring component. And what has to occur first is the shoring, which is being performed by a company called Isaac Blair. And what they are doing is providing structure that will put the building in tension and keep it in tension while the destructive demolition is occurring. And then from there, there are two demolition companies. There's a very finesse-oriented demolition which takes place at the slab and below, which is to expose those existing tension rods. And then there's some demolition above, which is nothing more than taking out the CMU block that is each side of the existing columns. One is more of a rough trade, and the other requires some particular detail. That's why there's two contractors involved in demolition. And then Capone Iron is going to be providing all the structure, the steel structure.
Now, these contractors that are
Yep.
involved in this effort, are they already involved in the school
Yes,
project? All of them?
all of these contractors are they are under contract to WT Rich. They are either through file sub bid or through the procurement that this board released early on in I think February, when the individual letters of recommendation for contract releases were brought before everybody.
So I gather we did not put this out for competitive bidding. Is that because?
No, we utilized who we had.
So competitive bidding's not required in this situation?
No.
Why is that?
Because they're under contract and it's an unforeseen condition, so we can just go to the steel person, and to be honest, time would not really afford that whole.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah, and as it is, we are pushing the envelope on time, and the all-purpose room will probably be delayed in terms of the turnover in the first phase. And if we went to a competitive bid process, it would add significantly more time. And I'm not sure we'd do any better
Sure.
than where we are now with the numbers. And we
Do you think these prices are reasonable? Or?
I think they adequately reflect the scopes of work. The one thing we are doing is we are working through with each of the subs to try and get the best price. The structural engineer needs to review two sets of shop drawings. One will be the shop drawing for the shoring, and sign off on that. So to make sure that it reflects what is necessary, and if it's seen that something is not necessary in that can save money, we will we will go to try and get those dollars back, because the scope will have changed. And the same thing with the steel. The steel shop drawings need to be reviewed, and depending upon how that has been portrayed by the subcontractor, if there are things in there that he has included in his pricing that the structural engineer feels is not necessary, then there's the chance for saving dollars that way. We hope to try and better these numbers, but these right now reflect all the information that everybody has before all the real detail work is done at the shop drawing level.
And,
This will only come down, if I could just jump in.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is an order of magnitude that I'm looking at, whereas I know there's potential cost savings, but right now I can't count on those cost savings until the structural engineer reviews shop drawings where we're going to propose alternate ideas in the effort to save time and money. It's my belief that we will not exceed this value, that it only come down.
Oh, well, that would be nice.
But we're looking for approval and release so we can move the different.
We got enough, where do we stand on the budget? In terms of,
This is the first true draw against the construction contingency fund, which is about $1.4 million and change.
Is what?
about $1.4 million and change in the construction.
Plus, we've been saving some money. We're below budget, well, most of the bids, right, so far?
Correct. There is some accrued savings through the buyout, and this event would go against the construction contingency account.
So we'd still have over $1 million in that fund.
Correct.
After this?
Correct. Yes.
Just, now, those columns, are they wood all the way through?
They are. In fact, it's a laminate. It's a series of strips that have been bonded together that create that.
So where you're cutting at 5 feet from the floor, is that going to be, you're saying it's going to be steel covered with new wood to match up?
No,
or,
well, the column leg, the new leg will be a combination of reinforced concrete with steel in the middle, and then there's a channel that goes over that, and then that channel will then get a carpentry solution to put so the benches are more in keeping with what was there.
How was it discovered?
When we removed the benches.
Remove the benches?
When we removed the benches as part of demolition, it became evident that there were certain columns that were damaged, and then when we removed the stage, there were 2 additional columns either side of the stage opening that had been impacted.
Does this impact all the columns
Yes.
on both sides?
Yes. Correct.
Now, there was termite damage discovered there years ago. We talked about it briefly before, but
Yeah.
it doesn't appear to be any repairs done, although I thought there were repairs done or something, but
Yeah.
it was so far back, it had to be 30 years ago or whatever.
None of the columns that have, we've exposed everything, and none of them show any kind of, new wood being scabbed into the existing units. All it shows is the areas where they have been chewed. And what we did is, in our investigation, is we had a company come in and start to measure the interiors through a process of GPR, ground penetrating radar, where they were looking through the columns to see where there were voids, and that's what has triggered. Besides the visual at the bottom, the concern was more what was going on in the middle that we couldn't see, and that investigative process turned up a whole series of voids as we went into each of the columns.
There's no indication of any current activity. It's all
No, in
the
fact,
old damage.
No, in fact, the exterminator. The first stop in this journey was with McGuire, the exterminator that the district has under contract, and he said that the colonies seemed to have been and gone, and that it was not an active situation. But
eight and left.
Yeah, exactly. But as part of this program, it will get a treatment between now and the beginning of September.
Was there any indication or has anybody talked about maybe other areas of the building that may have termite damage, or is this mainly because of all the wood structure in that?
I think it's because of all the wood structure. We went through a fairly extensive demolition in the north wing, and I don't think we encountered anything of that magnitude. But at the same token, it's mostly brick and block until you get to the roof deck, which is wood joists, and we haven't seen any termite issues at that level.
So all the damage is under 5 feet. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So, some of the GPR. It shows it in that range, and some places lower, but for uniformity, we're looking at a 5 foot.
We believe it's 5 feet. The only way we're going to know for sure is to get it shored up and start cutting, and we really can't release the steel until we can guarantee the steel fabricator that nothing else. We want to get everything to the same elevation everywhere. In order to do that, we need to shore it up, cut it, expose everything, come up with our determination of elevation. If we have to go up 5 feet, we have to go bring the steel up. If we have to go up 6 feet, we have to bring that steel up another foot. So we want to make sure that we're not making any changes with steel after we release it. So it's important for us to get in, shore it, start cutting, and finalize the steel heights.
You said, Larry, you're indicating that there's gonna be a delay in opening that room, because originally it was gonna be open for the opening of
It
school.
would open with the opening of school.
Any indication of what kind of a delay you're talking?
Right, we actually had our construction meeting on Friday, and there were, Christine was there as well as Michelle Cresta. People, we're looking to the end of September to be able to turn it over.
So that means that they won't be able to use the cafeteria or any of that?
Correct, and we go back to the program, that we used before school ended with the gymnasium.
So Christine will notify the parents and so on and so forth?
Yeah,
The
my
school
understanding
department will.
is that those conversations have already started.
Right, okay. I'll give you a motion, Mr. Chairman, to approve the
Second.
request for $353,502.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
All's opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you.
I'll give
One
you a
other,
motion, Mr. Chairman, on the technology for
Yeah, one other-
$1,081.
yes, and we have room in the budget for this. This is a piece of equipment that the school department is putting in all their other schools, and they've asked to incorporate this as part of our technology package for Pine Grove. It's what's called the Raptor system, and what it does is it allows visitors, or the school administration, to take visitors' driver's license. They scan it in, and the computer will determine if there are issues with the visitor. It's just another level like Sori or Corey, and it's almost instantaneous in terms of going into a database and determining if there's any outstanding issues that would prohibit the person from being on site.
The price is $2,081.
Correct, yes.
Give it a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All's in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All's opposed? The ayes have it. Okay.
It's well worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, small price to pay for
Yeah.
that type of safety.
Is there anything else we need to vote on?
Mr. Chairman, so I believe now I have the authorization to issue the purchase order for this, correct? Right away, this is you need
Yeah.
this right away.
When you can do it this week, it would be great, yes. In terms of the change order, because of the hierarchy that we established early on, I have 4 copies that
Okay.
can be signed, and if you get them back to me so I can do the paperwork with W.T. Rich. I don't need to take signatures,
Okay, so-
now, but I can pick
Okay.
them up anytime afterwards.
Okay.
You can sign anywhere on there. I didn't
I didn't see a
think about 4
signature.
signatures.
Well, they can be on the owners.
Right.
It's at this point, it's the owner's signature.
So we could have the chairman sign?
Okay. I'll leave these with you. So
Thank you.
these, you have the originals. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll
Coming
get
in.
that going
Yeah,
immediately.
get the price down.
Thank you, good luck.
Yes, sir.
Huh?
Cash those bottles.
Okay, our next appointment is at 7. I'll take up general business number 1. Dear Debbie Egan, I, Barry White, am submitting a letter of resignation on July 2nd, 2018, which is my last day of employment for the town of Rowley as a laborer, utility maintenance 2 in the water department. I would like to thank all of the individuals in the hiring process for this great opportunity. Best wishes, Barry White. Do we
Thank you.
need to vote on this?
I'll give you a motion, Mr. Chairman, to accept it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Take up new business. New business number 1 is to award town bridges and culverts conditions and maintenance plan contract. In May, the town issued a solicitation to 3 civil engineering firms for price quotes to complete a bridges and culverts conditions and maintenance plan. Development of this plan is being paid for using funds granted the town as part of the Community Compact Agreement. The town received one response to the solicitation from VHB. Their proposed total project cost is $24,750, which is within budget. Natalie contacted 3 municipalities for references on similar projects and received responses from 2 of the 3 communities. Both of those references were very positive, and the community stated that they would work with VHB again. Highway surveyor Pat Snow has also reviewed VHB's proposal and is recommending that the Board of Selectmen vote to award the contract to VHB. So this is being paid for with state funds, Debbie, entirely?
Yes.
Yes. Any discussion?
Are they gonna be looking also, Debbie, at, the Glen Street Bridge, right? That's part of the
Yes,
scope of
the
work.
inventory that was submitted by the highway surveyor, so all his list of
Okay.
bridges and culverts,
I give the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Second? Anyone?
Second.
All's in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All's
Aye.
opposed? The ayes have it. Okay. Pick up old business. Number 1, update on fire station and police station addition project. Work is moving along. The fire station framing is nearly complete. The trim and siding are being installed on both buildings. The septic system will be installed in a couple of weeks. Anything else, Dave, to report?
No, they're making good progress out there. The weather's been good, cooperative, and it slowed down a little bit because of vacation schedules the first 2 weeks of July by the various contractors, but otherwise it's progressing very well.
Great. Old business number 2, update on the Pine Grove School project. This agenda item was taken up under the 6:30 PM appointment with Larry Berger of Pink and Company. I think Larry has said that things are going well, except for this recently discovered issue with termites. Any further discussion? Yeah?
No.
Okay. Old business number 3, update on the requests for a traffic light at Route 1 and Central and Glen Streets. Senator Tarr and Representative Hill have informed the Board of Selectmen that an amendment was made by Senator Tarr in the Senate bond bill to include funds for the planning and construction of a signalization light at the intersection of Route 1 and Central and Glen Street. Bob Snow will update the board. I thought, when I looked at that the amendment only applied to Central Street and not,
it, yeah, doesn't apply to
Central,
others.
it doesn't apply to Weathersfield Street, right?
I received a phone call the other day from Representative Hill informing me to inform the board that he is working with the senator, and they were able to get this into a bill, and now it's like making sausage. It's an ugly process, but he's hoping that the way they have it into the bill, that we'll be able to, maybe in a year, okay? And again, it's has to go through the Senate, so it goes through the House, goes through all the machinations of the House, and then goes up into the Senate. Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm kind of new to this. What do the citizens have to do to make this any faster? Can we do anything to help this along?
It's in the House.
Okay.
What we did was, we've met over, what is it, probably 10, 15 years about this intersection. And the last time, Selectmen, I was out there in 2015 with Representative Hill. And we brought in from District 4, and I'm trying to think of the gentleman's name, Paul Stedman, from Mass Highway. And we were out there and we looked over it, and, we thought we were able to do something. But again, you have to remember, it's just not this light. It's everybody else in the Commonwealth has that light they're looking for. It's $1 million.
Every town has an intersection.
Yeah,
problem.
every town has it. So.
I see.
And, as we've been working, with Representative Hill, as soon as he came in and took over the district, And now we're in this process of trying to get this through the House. Once it gets through the House, it still has to go through the Senate. But I have a good feeling, you know, it's in good hands with these two.
Short of the state and the red tape that's gone on for many years at those intersections, is there something that
I'm sorry,
Rowley can
could
do
you,
to supersede?
could you identify yourself? I'm sorry.
Hilltown from 22 Bennett Hill Road. Is there something that Rowley can do to supersede the state in terms of some kind of emergency signage?
Well, it's a state highway, so we have no jurisdiction over it.
That's what the holdup is?
It's state highway.
Yeah. And Debbie Morrissey, I live on Central Street.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, could we be clear, though, this, the money that's being inserted in the environmental bond bill would just be covering some of the studies for the
Yes.
development? It would not be actually for that, and I presume the state
okay.
will want to do
It-
another study and bring in the engineering team again.
Yeah.
And again, we're competing with every other town in the Commonwealth that has their particular intersection. That's a danger, okay? And
Mr. Chairman, Henry Rolfe, Plantation Drive, what is, are there traffic count records kept?
there were traffic count records done back, as I recall, back in 2015. And then they were done before that. Again, this is not just happened, okay? This is a long process, and it goes back, Dave, when you were first on the board, correct? Back in
Yeah,
the 90s.
In other words, the last time we had a study done, they did a complete traffic study, but that's part of what'll delay this now, is if they appropriate the money, part of this money will be for a consulting company to come out and do another complete traffic study. Update how much traffic's changed.
And I would
At least
think-
as a base
Yeah.
from 5 years ago, they can use to see is traffic increasing, decreasing, or whatever.
Yeah, I would
Plus
think
they'll
they
update
do
the
another
actuals.
traffic count as part of that study,
Yeah.
I mean.
That's what it's all about, so. And like Mr. Snow says, it's, we're competing against, 100, 200 other projects. It's like the same things we went through with the school building grants to do Pine Grove. You're competing against every other community in the Commonwealth that has a project for, and it's a very finite amount of money, so.
Well, I'm thinking that-
Senator Tarr and Representative Hill have been very active now pursuing this, so hopefully it'll go through, but at the same time, you probably won't, if everything goes according to plan, you're probably gonna be 3 years before you see a light there.
So somebody's gonna die in the meantime.
Absolutely. Hate to say
Well,
it,
you
but
know,
that's the
the-
way it goes. There's a process and they have to follow it.
Yeah, it's just the way it is. But that particular day where I was out there with Paul Stedman and Representative Hill, I asked Paul Stedman, I said, "Will you get in the car and come down with me?" When we went down to Route 1 in Haverhill Street, and remember there was all that problem with that arrow, and 4 days later, Paul was able to get an arrow put in there so for people to make the turn to go south. So something good came out of that day, but again, it's going to be a process. We just have to,
I've seen 2 motorcycles go down since I've been here, one at Weathersfield and one at Central Street, and it was nasty to see that. And there's a dip as you come in from over the Rowley line.
Yes.
It's a blind spot.
yeah, that's one of the things that we spoke to when we talked to Paul Stedman. We talked about the blind spot. As you come up from Newbury, okay, and you come up to that rise, in the same way coming the other way. There's this hill there, and you really got to be very, very careful.
Yeah.
In
Well,
that
I'm just
particular
thinking
spot.
if there was a sign a few hundred feet, those unknowing people that come to have this beautiful scenic Rowley ride on their motorcycle, or some kid coming out of Triton going too fast in that dip.
Well,
If you look out into that, you're not going to see that person.
a couple of meetings ago, I was talking about coming from Newbury, about 2 days before that, and I'm coming down past Governor's, where you're supposed to slow down to 45 miles an hour right there. Well, someone's right up on my tail, okay? I pulled over, buzzed right by me, and then probably hit that hill going about at least 60 miles an hour. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah.
If you're on Glen Street looking over and you look once,
But I mean, we put all the miles per hour out there. I think the basic is like 50 miles an hour on Route 1. couple of spots go up to 55, I think. But for the most part, people, you know,
But even if there's like a few hundred feet back, if there was a approaching dangerous intersection, at least it might stop a few people from racing or slowing down a little bit, giving somebody a few more feet to stop. And it's just, I see so many near misses. I live very close to there, and my elderly mom has almost been taken out trying to get out into the intersection.
I think most of the people in Raleigh who live here, you know, approach that intersection are very, very cautious, okay, because they know the intersection. The problem is that you have somebody from out of town,
That's the ones.
you know, and that's, you know, and a lot of people use the cut-through from 95 and go through the back roads. And I know that personally, and you see New Hampshire plates and they're heading towards Cape Ann, 133.
Well, I hear what you're saying, and I don't know, it is a state highway, so, I mean, I think the rule is that the town has no jurisdiction of it, so I don't know if we can go
Maybe we could
erecting
request-
signs.
we
Request
we
the state
can't
policy.
erect a
Two
sign.
signs up. I mean, I'd pay for them myself, you know, if the state would say, I mean, because it's
Well,
gonna save some lives.
you could pay for them, they wouldn't put them up, because it has to be done by the state.
Yeah.
I realize that, but I mean, if-
And everything, you know, we
But-
like to
but-
go out there and we like to put them, we can't because it's state controlled.
When there was a bicycle race that crossed that intersection just a few weeks ago, the town had a flashing sign. I don't even know if that was authorized by the state, probably not.
We put it on, I think it was on the edge, more
Yeah.
on our Central Street.
Well, you can do a temporary thing, but not, you can't do anything permanent.
No.
Because if there is an accident out there and then someone blames that sign, because if it's not authorized by the state, then we become liable.
Yeah, just like the curb cuts, anything to do.
Everything is done, they have
with
to
frontage
okay it.
on the state roads, has to
You
go
just
through
can't
Mass
put
DOT.
something out on the road, okay?
You know, we-
Because if somebody hits it, you're liable for that sign.
I'm
Okay,
just wondering-
if it hasn't been put in by the state or put in by a utility company, okay?
I'm just wondering, would the state meet us part way if we had some suggestions? And, you know, I know putting in a stoplight is gonna be a lot more complicated procedure, but some signage might be easier to pull off. And that's what
Well,
I'm thinking
right now,
might be halfway.
it's in the process, okay? It's there, going through the house, okay? So we hopefully, I'll talk to Representative Hill, okay? And see if there's anything else can be done in the meantime.
Some kind
we'll
of
see.
emergency signage, I think, would be a first
Well,
step.
again, it has to go through District 4, Arlington, okay? And that, they have to approve it.
It's not like it used to be, Bob, when there was a state workers in the town of Raleigh.
Yeah.
And in 1960, they started to lower that road. Central Street went down very steep to Route 1.
Again, everything is placed in a certain place on a road, okay? And it's done by the state or done by utility. It goes in a particular place. That's it. And just can't go throw a sign in. So it has to, it's paperwork, We all know about paperwork. Paperwork's everywhere.
And they also lowered Route 1 on both sides of that coming together. So they tried to do as best they could and get some things done.
Right, they've done things over the years, and at the Weathersfield Street too, they put a
It
flashing
was-
light on.
Back in those days, it was called Crack Up Corner,
Yeah,
and it just
That's the other blind spot at Weathersfield, as you come out of Weathersfield Street and you wanna turn like you're going to Market Basket, you have to inch out, and there's a telephone pole that shouldn't be there. It's a blind spot, and you have to get past that to see who's coming. Well, it also, you find that people are in a rush, and they go into the breakdown lane, and I don't know how many times I've been almost sideswiped by cars racing around the car that's
right, that's the
slowing
main,
to
that's
make
the
turn.
problem.
And that telephone pole shouldn't
Right.
be there.
I've said this before, my wife was sitting at that stop sign one day, and she was sitting at the stop sign, she wasn't driving, and she just watched as one car was pushed into her car by another car, by a third car. And she said the expression of the first car's, the driver of the first car's face was, he was horrified, because he had no control over the situation.
Right.
And so, it's a terrible, that's a terrible intersection as well. So, but, what can we do? I mean,
Now, does
get
the
it.
state control who deals with that telephone pole?
I don't view that as the primary problem, but the pole, I mean, because I have to make that turn every day. I don't think the pole is the main problem. I think it's what you identified is when cars are stopped in the middle of the road, other cars feel free to drive around them, and they hardly slow down. They hardly slow down. You know?
Well,
90% of the problem is other people
Yeah.
driving in every situation.
big problem I find at Weathersfield Street is you get a lot of people taking lefts, coming north on Route 1 taking a left, or going south on Route 1 taking a left. Then when you get cars backed up on either side of Weathersfield, then you get the traffic going around those cars that
Yeah.
are making the left. I mean, it's a real problem there, there's no doubt about it. But
Yeah.
I mean, there's been 2 fatals out there in the last
Yeah.
10 years at that intersection.
I think it was, maybe, it might have been 3.
Yeah.
And then we had the motorcycle where the
Yeah.
guy lost his leg, and that was just a more recent one. But yeah, both those intersections are bad. It's we've done all we can over the years trying to get some help for them, and the state goes out and counts the cars and says, no, there's not enough traffic out there.
But this
That's
is
basically what it's been.
It's not going to be something we're going to drop. I mean, this is something we're, talk about all the time. And hopefully this gets pushed through.
Yeah, and then we'll work on Weathersfield Street. What else can you do?
Well, we were lucky we got the flashing light there
Yeah.
at Weathersfield
Right.
Street after the 2 accidents, the
Yeah.
2 fatalities that we had. So, and that, I think that has stopped a lot of accidents, that particular flashing light.
Okay, we don't need to vote on that, right?
No,
Okay, we have a 7 o'clock appointment with Police Chief Scott Dumas to present Robert Adams for the position of detective. Chief outside?
Yeah, Chief.
Yes, sir. A little nervous about coming in after that conversation.
Anything to add?
I don't, other than agree with that.
Yeah.
Because
The new detective who worked on it.
So,
Yeah, good stand up. Look at this room. Matt, you can sit over here if you want.
next to Barney. You want to sit here? No, I'm all set. Thank you very much for allowing us to interrupt your meeting for the presentation of Officer Adams. As you know, we've been with other detectives since the promotion of Sergeant Zip, and this also kind of gives me an opportunity to thank Sergeant Zip publicly for a lot of the double duties he's been carrying.
Excuse me, Chief, we're
sorry.
now in a period of public comment that'll go for until 7:15.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. It allows me the opportunity to publicly thank Sergeant Zip for he has been handling double duties as far as the detective caseload while we were out there. We purposely didn't appoint the detective position for a couple of reasons. A, we wanted to make sure that every officer that's at the police department is getting well-rounded and carrying these investigations for as long as they can. But also it gave us the opportunity for the officers, as you know, I'm new and I don't know all the officers completely, and it gave them an opportunity to present their skills and their drive as far as the detective position, which is really important for the agency. And during that time, we finally opened the process up. And even though we only had one application, I really think it's because Officer Adams has stood head and shoulders above everybody else that had shown interest in the position, not only for what he has done over the course of the year to make himself ready with department time, but also the stuff that he's done on his own, at his own expense, to get himself ready, for the position. Officer Adams is also, on his own expense, taking computer forensics course, basic fingerprint and fusion intelligence officer training, again, that he go online or on different ways that he pave his own way and he present to us the certificates that he gave. He also became our sexual assault investigator during the past year, received training in that, as well as ICAC, Internet Crimes Against Children, task force he's asked to belong to, which is also provides other training, not only just the investigative aspect of it, but also the computer forensic component, which is necessary for those types of investigations. Bob has also been involved with a high-intensity drug trafficking area interdiction team, which operates within the area. All these things Matt Ziv has also participated in and will continue to at some level as Bob's direct supervisor in these investigations. So Bobby has shown great drive and desire and ability over the course of the year. And so I'm very pleased to present him as a candidate of the next detective for the Raleigh Police Department.
Right.
I think it sounds like a well-qualified appointment, and working with, I know Matt Ziv, Sergeant Ziv at this point has been very instrumental in a number of good investigative situations in the town of Raleigh. He's a valuable resource and help you out, and I think it's great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Someone want to make a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Before you leave, Sue Hazen wants to,
Oh, Sue.
congratulations.
I can do so now?
Yeah.
How about this way, right?
I'm just doing this at the last minute, so bear with me for a minute.
We're gonna come in tomorrow, Dale.
Yeah, but you brought your family tonight.
True.
If I could ask you to raise your right hand and read those 3 paragraphs inserting your name.
I, Robert Adams, do solemnly swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to, and will uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and that I will fairly and equitably execute and enforce the laws thereof within the extent of my authority and jurisdiction, so help me God. I, Robert Adams, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all the duties incumbent on me as a police officer of the Raleigh Police Department. I will obey and be bound by such rules and regulations as now or may be from time to time established for the government of the Raleigh Police Department, so help me God. I, Robert Adams, hereby accept the position of detective in the Raleigh Police Department.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And Selectmen, if you would indulge me one more thing after Bob is done signing that, if we're going to ask his mom to remove his patrolman's badge and ask his girlfriend Jackie to place the detective badge on.
Sure.
Very good, congratulations.
Thank you very
Good luck.
much. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You want to get a picture with the boards, or do you want to?
Absolutely.
Stop by my office.
Okay, well, there's.
Why don't you come over too with Harry?
Way in the back here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm pretty sure it's in front of me.
How do you take a picture of this, Chief?
Push the button.
This is a fancy phone. Which one?
That help him out.
Down? Down, shut it off.
Needs a little detective work.
All right.
Good job, Harry. Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good luck, Chief. Yep.
Thank you.
Chief.
Thanks, Bob. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good
Thank you
luck.
very
Yeah,
much.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye now.
Okay, we're a little bit behind on our 7:10 appointment, but if there's anyone who wants to make a public comment before we close it, this would be your opportunity. Okay?
You want to read that? I don't think you read it, did you?
This meeting is being video and audio recorded and televised live on Raleigh Community Media. And it's only staring at me in the face, right?
Yeah, but it's there every week, so you look by
Yeah,
it.
right.
It's like traffic signs, you go by them, you go by a traffic sign often enough, you don't even see it.
Right. Okay, this is our 7:10 appointment. The Board of Selectmen is meeting with 3 residents interested in serving on the Historic District Commission and Historical Commission. There is a full member seat open on the Historic District Commission, and the Historical Commission. There's an opening for an alternate member of the Historic District Commission and the Historical Commission. After meeting with the candidates, the board can vote to make the appointment to the full member seat and alternate seat on each respective board. Okay, our first appointment is with Stephen Cabot to discuss serving on the Historic District Commission and the Historic Commission. Mr. Cabot, if you want to sit in the front row, that'd be great. Good evening.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
Mr. Cabot has sent, I think we've met before. You live
Yeah,
on
you
Glen
look
Street, right?
familiar.
You're the cabinet maker, right?
Right.
Has sent in a letter of interest and resume in serving as full member of the Historic District Commission and Historical Commission. Historical Commission and Historic District Commission member Sarah Bork has also sent the Board of Selectmen a letter supporting Mr. Cabot's appointment. Also enclosed in this packet for the board's reference is a copy of the Historic General Bylaws, the Raleigh Historic District Guidelines, and some of the suggestions. Okay, I want to read your letter that you submit. Oh no, first I'll read the letter from Frank Todd and Sarah Bork to the Board of Selectmen. Dear Honorable Selectmen, please accept this letter as an endorsement to appoint Stephen Cabot to the available one-year member position. Commission members had the opportunity to meet Stephen at the June 7th meeting. Through our conversation, it became clear there were many shared values. Stephen has an impressive resume with over 30 years of experience in cabinet making, including working on many historically significant buildings in New England, such as the Paul Revere House. His work has been featured in numerous professional design publications. He regularly works with architects, interior designers, and builders on highly custom architectural woodworking commissions. Stephen is architecturally trained at the Boston Architectural College and holds his Massachusetts builder's license. It's clear that Stephen's craft is highly regarded in his field, and he is highly respected in his community. No doubt having a design professional with his level of expertise and experience join will only enliven and strengthen the commissions. The members of the Historic Commission and Historic District Commission strongly recommend his appointment. And you submitted a letter to the Selectmen. Dear Selectmen, I am writing to apply for a board position on the Raleigh Historic District Commission. I have been a Raleigh resident for almost 27 years. In August 1991, my wife and I moved to Glen Street, where I built my barn, workshop, and remodeled our 1885 home. I have been operating a cabinet-making business since 1976 and have worked on historic properties such as the Boston Globe's Old Corner Bookstore and the Paul Revere House. I've also built cabinets for many old houses in the region where I blended modern cabinetry functions while recreating historic features. I have an architectural background, having attended Boston Architectural College. I frequently collaborate with designers and architects on architectural woodworking commissions. I look forward to helping Raleigh and the Raleigh Historic District Commission in preserving the beauty and integrity of our historic buildings. Sounds like you're very well qualified. We've already read a great deal about your background. Is there anything else you feel might be of interest to us or significant?
Oh, no, I just sort of, always wanted to get a little bit more involved with what was going on in town, and I've always been a little bit busy, but this seems like a good point in my life to devote a little bit more time to, helping out the town and keeping in touch with what's going on.
Oh, great. We need new people becoming involved in town government, that's for sure. Any other questions?
Are you familiar with the Historic District Commission General Bylaws? Have you read over any of the bylaws?
No, I can't say I've studied them yet. I haven't really gotten all the information, but I am familiar with the two different historical districts, the downtown district and the Glen Mills district.
Well, so, but you're willing to familiarize yourself
sure,
with
yeah.
the applicable bylaws and
Right.
our, as well as the demolition delay bylaw.
Right, that's
Important function. The Historic District Commission and the Historical Commission usually meet on the evening of the first Thursday of each month. Would you be able to attend those meetings
Oh, sure.
on a regular basis? And as a public official, you would need to familiarize yourself not only with the Historic District Commission guidelines, but the state open meeting law and the state ethics law. The state requires all public officials to take an online state ethics test. So this is something you'd be willing to do.
Oh, sure.
Do you have any questions of us?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay, well, thanks again for applying, and we'll let you know our determination.
Okay, great.
Okay, we have a 7:20 appointment with Holly Gagne. Is she here? Oh, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
You're here, she's here to discuss, would you like to come in the front seat? Holly is here to discuss serving as an alternate member of the Historic District Commission and Historical Commission. Ms. Gagne is sent in a letter of interest in serving as an alternate member of those commissions. Historic District Commission and Historical Commission member Sarah Bork has also sent the Board of Selectmen a letter supporting her appointment. The letter dated July 10th. Frank Todd and Sarah Bork reported to this board, please accept this letter as an endorsement to appoint Holly Gagne to the available one-year alternate member position. Commission members met Holly at the June 7th meeting. Holly readily expressed her keen appreciation for the town's unique and rural characteristics, a reason that she decided to build her business and family here. She has an impressive resume working in the field of interior architecture for over 10 years. Her award-winning design business is based in her home on Fenno Drive. She is familiar with the design review process as she attends many meetings for her clients. Additionally, she has participated on design review boards in the past as a design expert. Would you like to serve on the planning board?
Maybe.
Yeah, keep it in mind. We need someone with those qualifications. Holly holds a master's degree of interior architecture from the Boston Architectural College. She not only has an understanding of the design review process, but her knowledge of construction materials and methods can be valuable when advising applicants on appropriate sustainable choices. A busy mom of 2 children in the Pine Grove School, an alternate position works best for her situation. Having another experienced and qualified design professional join will only reinforce the Commission's ability to promote cultural and architectural preservation through design review. The members of the Commission strongly recommend this appointment. And you submitted a resume, which I won't go through. You submitted a letter too. Okay. So, in your letter, you say, "I'm writing to express my interest in applying for the current vacancy for the alternate seat on Rowley's Historic District Commission and Historic Commission. My family has lived in Rowley since 2011. Both of my children go to schools in town, and my interior design business is based here. I've been seeking ways to become more integrated with the local community in a way that best suits my skills and experience, and I think this position offers that opportunity. I've been running my own interior design business, Holly Gagne Interior Design, for over 10 years. I received my Master's of Interior Architecture from the Boston Architectural College and am well respected in the local architectural design construction community for my knowledge of architectural design and construction means methods. With the majority of my work in the local North Shore area, I have built a solid understanding and respect for our vernacular. I work closely with local architects and builders, not only on the interior architectural elements of homes, but also on exterior elements to ensure a thoughtful and integrated design approach. It is typical that I'm asked to consult on facade elevation designs as well as materials and finishes for my new construction or renovation projects. Generally speaking, I'm always reviewing architectural design plans and providing input to architects, builders, and clients. As part of my typical design scope, I've sat on design review boards for a few of my corporate and commercial clients, as well as during my time at school. I have been an active participant on expert design panels in the Boston area. My home barn on Fenno Drive has historical significance in an area and is surrounded by several historical properties. I have a strong appreciation for preserving the character and integrity of our town's history. I adore Rowley and connected with it instantly. I will be honored to have a role in preserving its unique and charming character. My expectation is that I will bring a strong level of knowledge to the commission, but I will also gain an even greater knowledge by participating as an alternate and learning from the other board members. I feel this experience will contribute in a positive way to future designs I may consult on, as well as enhance my appreciation for the guidelines. I look forward to hearing from you regarding my interest in this position and addressing any questions that you might have. Well, I'd just like to say that I think serving as an alternate on any board or commission is an excellent way to get your feet wet. And you'll probably find that you'll end up becoming a full-time member, because that's what most alternates do. There's a natural progression there, it seems, which would be a great thing for the town. Is there anything you want to add other than was in your letter or the various letters that I've read?
The biggest thing for me is just becoming more educated around people who are educated in this. So I have a pretty big hand in a lot of the architectural design in the area, and I think it would just benefit both sides probably to do it.
Okay, now are you already familiar with the commission guidelines and rules, or is that something that you'd be willing
Yeah,
to?
I'm pretty familiar with it, yeah.
Okay. And you would also need to, well, again, you've heard these questions already. The commission meets on the evening of the first Thursday of each month. That's something you'd be able to do.
That's
Even as an
fine.
alternate, I think it would be a good thing for you to attend those meetings.
I
even
agree.
if your vote isn't actually needed on a particular project.
Sure.
And you'd also need to familiarize yourself with the state open meeting law and the state ethics law, which all of us have to do. Right?
Yeah, I'm familiar with both
And
of those
of course,
too.
since you represent other clients in town, the clear thing you shouldn't do is be involved in any, take any issue, any role on the commission for a project you're involved with in
Okay.
any kind of business capacity. That's the main thing. Yeah. But, anything else?
No, quite well.
But thank you for your application.
I would make a recommendation, since he's the only one applying
Oh,
for
okay.
one alternate position, I would move that we appoint Holly Gagnon to that one-year position.
Any
Alternate.
second? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All's opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Good luck.
much.
and
I'm excited.
congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Volunteering.
Okay, we have a 7:30 appointment with Mike Sabatini. It's not 7:30 yet, so.
We could do approximate time.
Okay, all right, close enough. Yeah. Mike Sabatini is here to discuss serving on the Historic District Commission and Historical Commission. Mr. Sabatini has sent in a letter and a packet
Mike,
of...
why don't you come up?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. A letter and a packet of documents. He's asking to be reappointed to the Historic District Commission and to be appointed to the Historical Commission. He most recently served as a member of the Historic District Commission. He was not appointed to the Historical Commission because the Historical Commission holds the historic preservation restriction on his property. I think you submitted a, yes you did, okay. Gentlemen, this is a letter from Mike, that Mike submitted to the Board of Selectmen. Kindly allow this transmittal to serve as a basis for my reappointment to the Rowley Historic District Commission and appointment to the Rowley Historic Commission. As affirmation to my desire to be reappointed, on Monday, May 28, 2018, I submitted a letter to the then members of the commission. It states as follows. I wanted to take a moment to briefly explain my recent absences. Some of you may know that I was diagnosed with melanoma cancer of the lymph nodes. It came quick and sudden. I've had major surgery and am recovering. I've healed to the point where I shall be attending June's meeting. Additionally, I shall continue my involvement in the commission by renewing my appointment. I'm a third-generation builder with 40 years of experience in both masonry and carpentry trades, having specialized in historic restoration and preservation for the last 20 years. I've served on the Rowley Historic District Commission since December 18, 2014, and contributed voluminously, as I am the only member that's actually a professional builder with hands-on experience. In consideration of my reappointment to the commission, The Board of Selectmen asked that I be present on July 16 to discuss a letter from the Raleigh Historic District Commission dated July 27, 2017, and subsequently presented to the ZBA concerning the renovation of my barn. Okay, Mike. I'd rather, there's a lot of history here. I'd rather not that we rehash all of that history. But
Understood.
But if you wanna, if you feel like you wanna take a few minutes to say whatever you wanna say, we'll entertain it, we'll listen to it.
I think a lot of that letter was a misunderstanding, to put it lightly. In 2014, they wrote a letter to the Historic Commission that I had permission to do all the windows, doors, cupolas, stone foundations. Most of the work that they talked about was about the doors, windows, and stone foundation. And that's the 2014 letter. Once I re-showed them all the different letters, and it didn't take much to clear up everything, and I had everything signed off by the historic only matter of 5 or 6 weeks after they put out that letter. Everything was cleared up to their satisfaction, and you should have those copies of letters as well, stating everything is satisfactory and in excellent shape. That's my short version of going backwards. I've made multiple presentations to the board throughout the last year and a half. My fiance, she's great at IT. We've done full-on presentations to the historic commissions that look like this, detailing. This is what goes up on the TV screen, detailing every single aspect of every project, of every ounce that we ever did on that job. And we go before the historic commission probably every 2 or 3 months with presentations like this, going back to early 2016, 2017. So quite frankly, they were well aware of what we were doing. In the minutes of the meetings, it states it as well. You know, I have permission to do all the various items that I did do. I did it quick. I think the part of it was, the shocking part is I did a lot of it fast. And I think that kind of surprised them. But nonetheless, we kept them, that's why we went before the board almost every 2 months to keep them apprised of all the work that we were doing. That pretty much sums it up. Everything else is in good shape. The property looks glowing and gleaming, and right now it's structurally sound and dry. Done a great job over there as a builder. A lot of people have architectural, as you can tell by some of the people tonight, a lot of people have interior or exterior architectural design or landscaping design. I'm the only candidate that's actually been building. So when tradesmen come in and they're stumbling to have something fixed, I can understand what they're doing, and I lend credence that way when no one else can. So it's a great opportunity, and I really like doing it, and that's what I can tell you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, and I appreciate your service to the town, and you know what you've done on the Red Street property to preserve that historical gem. However, you've heard the letters of recommendation from the existing members of the commission, and they've recommended that the board appoint someone else. And personally, I feel that although the Board of Selectmen is the appointing authority, that we have an obligation to respect their opinions and generally to go along with them, unless they're clearly inappropriate. Because they're the ones who serve on the commission. They have to work with the people that we appoint, and I don't think it's the role of this board to send people there that they don't really necessarily get along with, or they found that they really have a hard time working with. And I'm not saying that in reference to your case at all, but so that's where I'm coming from. I think we have recommendations from the commission, and they've recommended someone else. So I hope you're not too upset if I defer to those personally defer to those recommendations, but maybe other members have other opinions.
I can kind of concur with what the chairman has said.
Bernie?
It strikes me as a little...
Identify yourself.
It's Bernie Cullen, 283 Weathersfield Street. It strikes me as a little awkward. On the one hand, we do have the positive references for the other candidate, but it sounds as though I haven't heard at this point a reason why Mike wouldn't continue. I mean, if the description of the events is accurate, then it seems as though there were misunderstandings and those have been cleared up. If there's something else, then I think we should be explicit about it. So if the other members of the board have trouble working with Mike, we should just say that and not kind of beat around the bush and kind of make it look as though there's something else when there isn't anything else. Because it doesn't seem as though there's any criteria for either rejecting Mike or accepting Mike, or rejecting or accepting any of the other candidates for the position. So this just seems like a very fuzzy and imprecise way of coming to a decision. Now, there may be other information that people feel uncomfortable sharing, and I guess that's your call.
I agree, because even after the fact, all the letters to the ZBA, because we reported a lot to the ZBA, so a lot of the letters went to the ZBA and said everything was fine.
Right,
So,
but that strikes me as that's a separate determination. If that's the determination, then that's the determination. But we should say that. Somebody should say that, and so that it's very clear what the grounds are for essentially what amounts to, as far as I can see, the firing of an existing board member. That may be a little harsh way of putting it, but that's what strikes me as.
Well, it's a reappointment.
Yeah, it's not a firing.
It's not a firing. And I'm looking at it from the board, what the board wants. Okay, and
Well, Bob, I don't mean to interrupt, but that's what I haven't heard.
yeah.
So if there is something that the board is saying, then that should be said, and that may be determinative.
Well, I've read both, okay, and then the board asks for a specific person, okay? Not that, there may be something that the board wants and requires as they go forward, and that's what I'm looking at. I'm not looking at it as personality.
No, me neither.
No.
And I don't think it's in the interest of the town to conduct an inquiry into what's, and who knows what, and I'm not making any judgment about what went on.
The concerns were resolved, and you would think it would go back to status quo, but it didn't. That's what you're referring to.
I mean, this is an appointment. It, when we serve on town commissions or board, if we're not elected, then elected people have certain rights, but if you're disappointed and your appointment is up, then, there's really I have to say it, there's no really right to continue. And I'm not making any judgment about what happened. And I don't think, I disagree with you, Bernie, to the extent that you seem to be suggesting that we have to make this judicial inquiry and determine who behaved improperly or who didn't behave, who behaved satisfactorily, and I just don't think that's in the interest of the town to do. Frankly, we don't have the time for that, and I can't see getting.
It does seem a bit murky, though.
Well, it is murky.
I agree with Bernie that
Yeah.
I think that he seems kind of railroaded to me.
Well,
Just a few years ago here on the board, we had an appointment to another board, and at that particular time, the feeling of the board was that they wanted a particular qualification, okay, and the person wanted that position, but the board felt that the other person had that qualification, and so they appointed the other person. It was just, they were looking for a certain qualification. That happened about 7 or 8 years ago. I remember that. It's, people feel a little bit uncomfortable, okay, at that particular time, but the board wanted a particular qualification. So in this case, you have the historic looking for, for what I read, a particular qualification, and they want, so it's not for me to say.
Hilltown, 22 Bennett Hill Road,
Yeah.
what is that qualification you're seeking?
Well, as I read through it, the particular board wants a particular individual because of a qualification that they're looking for. Now, I don't think this is personality. I don't think. Unless you know something that I don't know.
Well, we know Michael has had his issues with the town over the years, or at least recently, and it just seems like he's not getting treated in a way that I think is respectful.
Well, I've tried to be respectful. I mean, again, I don't think it's appropriate for the town. I don't think it's worth our taking the time in a meeting to conduct an inquiry as to what things that have gone on in the past. I don't see where that gets anyone. So, and I think we also have a hard enough time attracting people to boards, to serve on boards in town. We need more people. We really need more people to become involved. And when people on a board decide that they want one applicant versus this one, I think we have to respect that decision. I think we have to defer to it. These are obviously qualified applicants. Everyone's qualified, but again, I think unless something stands out to us in terms of who's a better fit for the board or who's more qualified, I think we have to defer to the people on that commission or that board, because they may not like it if we force them to accept a particular person, and they may quit. And where would the town be in that situation? I just don't think it's in the interest of the town to get into all the details that have gone on. To me, that's water under the bridge, and we just need to move forward. And we have, we already voted on one person who was very qualified, and we have another person who's very qualified. And I'm sorry, Mike, but that's just the way it is, in my opinion. You can always apply for another board or run for office. But I just don't see that it's worth getting into the issues and rehashing all this. I just don't see where that gets us.
I think we need to understand how this works. It's the Broad Street Farm property holds a preservation restriction agreement. This document assures that the exterior architectural history and culture features of the building and the interior architecture, historic and cultural features of the barn and 1911 barn addition are forever maintained. The provision document also provides a framework for procurement. The Rowley Historical Commission is the overseer of this restriction agreement for the town of Rowley for the following structures: Broad Street House, Broad Street Barn, known as the barn, Broad Street Addition, known as the 1911 barn addition. So we're kind of putting the Historic Commission into a little, what do I want to say, vice on the table. Because you people think we should hire somebody that is part of that committee and actually owns the property that we're talking about. So if the committee says, well, look, we don't think that that's the right architecture, and then he's going to try to, not that he's going to, but I can see it coming, change it so that he gets what he wants. So I think we need to think about that very carefully.
Well, I think that's a very explicit and clear criteria. If there's a potential conflict of interest, we just haven't, I just didn't hear that being explicitly stated. What I heard explicitly stated is that Mike isn't on another part of it because of that conflict of interest. So if the conflict of interest applies equally to both parts of the commission, then fair enough. I'm not trying to re-argue that it should be rehashed or investigated or anything like that. I just think if you make decisions, they should be explicit and and clear. And if it's just the other two, if the majority of the board members wants somebody else, then let's say that. And
Well, they have said that.
well,
Mr. Chairman,
I've said it very clearly.
I got one.
Two letters.
I got a question.
Can I follow up on him before you jump to something
Yeah,
different?
well, this refers to the same thing. You were recently appointed, last time, to the Historic District Commission. You were not appointed to the Historical Commission because of the commission holds the historic preservation restriction on his property.
Correct.
That was the reason why. So are you now applying for both positions, or are you applying just for the
I was applying for both.
Historic District Commission?
As he is correct, that you have to, I have to be very vigilant, because I am in the district where that house is. But what you'll see in your package is the letter. I spent several months working with the lawyers at the Ethics Committee in Boston to make sure that I'm allowed to be on the board, and they ruled that I am allowed to be on the board. Both boards, as the papers that you see from the attorney in Boston, that the Ethics Committee does say I'm allowed to be on both boards. With the simple, obvious caveat is I have to recuse myself, come around the table, and not obviously vote for anything that has to do with me. Now, two other members on the RHDC, they sit on the committee that they are in their district. Their houses are in the historic district, yet they still sit on the same committee where their houses are located. You bring up the point where it's a valid one, Bernie, in that those people sit on the committee, but they weren't excluded from that committee because they're in that district. I'm excluded from the RHC because I am in the district. So there is two sets of.
Well, you're not only in the district, you own a house that's under the direct supervision of the Historical Commission, right?
Correct.
So that puts you in a little different position than people who just live in the district.
Higher scrutiny, because I actually have a book, because I'm on the National Register, so my book is actually probably 3 times thicker than anybody else's, that I have to follow the rules.
My other question is, back when you started renovating the barn, I understood that you did not get building permits prior to doing many of those renovations. Is that true?
That is true.
So I'm not sure if you want to explain why you were doing renovations without getting a building permit. To me, that's a big thing. In other words, if you're on a board or commission, you're expected to abide by the rules, and you're a builder as well as historical documentation. You went ahead and made some renovations that were required to be authorized by the building inspector, who then comes along after they're done and makes an inspection to make sure that they conform with the law, and yet you did not get the building permits before you did the renovations, right?
That's a fair point. I did go to the Historic Commission and talked about all the things that I was doing, and I did get approval from them. They in turn write up all the things that I'm approved for and send it to the building inspector. I've had the building inspector at my house multiple times to discuss windows, doors, structural, whether I should put a concrete deck in the back or a wood deck, and he gave me advice going different ways, and I ended up using his advice and doing concrete. So while I did go to all the different boards for permission, and I got written permission from the historic and had the building inspector at my property, it is true that I did not pay the $65 and get a building permit.
Well, I mean, to me, the building permits is probably the most critical permit in terms of making sure that you conform with safety regulations and so on and so forth.
Understood. I haven't
And
been able to discuss what we did.
You went by afterwards.
I just didn't get a building
You went
permit.
by afterwards, and Mr. Ward was gracious enough to, wasn't being hard about it. He did go along with you afterwards. But I mean, I assume that if someone hadn't looked at it, you probably would never have gotten a building permit. At what point would you have gone to get a building? I mean, you're talking handicapped access issues, you're talking stairways, railings.
All that stuff came after the fact.
Right.
We're talking about the things that leading up to
But I mean,
all the things
that's why I'm just, my feeling is, and I'm not basing it on anything else other than the fact that I just feel that, if you're on a board, and you're on a builder, on top of that, if you're Mr. Joe Citizen who was completely unfamiliar with building regulations, I might say, okay, fine, you overlooked it and weren't aware of it. People will do that, but you're a builder and a contractor, and you should have been aware that the building permit was required. You went and did it afterwards. I mean, we read in the newspaper many articles about how the town was holding you up on all these permits, and yet you were the one that didn't go get the permit to begin with. So, for that reason, I'm not going to vote for you. But that's the only reason. I just feel that, and you know, it's nothing personal. It's just we're looking at people who conform with the rules and regulations, and particularly at a property down there where you know what the situation is, being with the Historic District and the Historic District Commission. You need building permits to do major building repairs. And
That's it.
that's my feeling.
Thank you, boss.
Pardon me?
I said, thank you, boss.
Well, anything else you want to say, like to say briefly? I think we...
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Does the board want to vote on this tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I want to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to appoint Mr. Cabot to the positions of Historic District Commission and Historical Commission.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
I'm gonna have to recuse myself.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
Thanks for
Thank you.
coming in.
Yes, sir.
Sorry.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if
Yes.
I could just let Mr. Cabot know, he'll be getting an official action notice from Howland tomorrow, so he can be sworn into his new position in time for their next meeting.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cabot, and good luck.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we're a little behind. We have an appointment with the treasurer collector, Karen Summit, to discuss signing of bonds.
Karen, you can sit over here if you want.
I'll sit here, and Susan needs to actually sit at the other end.
Okay.
Just rearrange the furniture, it'll be fine.
Karen is here tonight for the signing of bonds related to construction projects. As part of the approval of the bonds, the clerk of the Board of Selectmen, Robert Snow, will need to read a lengthy printed motion into the record before the vote is called. Karen will then circulate several documents for the board to sign. There you go, Mr.
Okay,
Clerk.
there we go.
So can I just give you a little recap of what we did?
That'd be nice.
So last Thursday, we went out to bid for $20 million worth of bonds for the public safety building and the Pine Grove School. We were very well received. We had 6 different bidders bid on the bonds. And Janney Montgomery Scott was the winning bid at an average interest cost of 3.35%. So that was a pretty good rate. So now we're locked in with $20 million, and that should take us almost, it'll finish up the borrowing for the public safety and almost the rest of the Pine Grove.
Have the rates been going up recently?
They have, but you know, they're probably gonna continue to go up, so.
Lock it in.
Right, we decided that, you know, instead of having to borrow again in 6 months, that it was a better idea to just borrow the 20 million now, lock the rates in, and you'd only have to go through the process once. We did have a conference call with S&P, and we were, our AA plus rating was affirmed. If we kind of keep on the good path that we're on, you know, at some point, we might actually improve that. But we'll see. So.
And with that, vote of the Board of Selectmen. I, the clerk of the Board of Selectmen, Town of Raleigh, Massachusetts, certify that at the meeting of the board held July 16, 2018, of which meeting all members of the board were duly notified, at which a quorum was present, the following votes were unanimously passed, all of which appear upon the official record of the board in my custody. Voted the sale of the $19,285,000 general obligation municipal purpose loan of 2018 bonds of the town dated July 26th, the bonds in Janney Montgomery Scott LLC at the price of $20,112,222.22, and accrued interest is hereby approved and confirmed. The bond shall be payable on July 15 of the years in the principal amounts and bear interest at the respective rates as follows. Year 2019, amount $95,000, interest rate 3%. Year 2030, amount $755,000, interest rate 5%.
About, read down first.
I'm sorry. I'm reading straight across. Okay, let me go back to the year. Year 2019, $95,000, amount 3%. Year 2020, $460,000, 4%. Year 2021, $480,000, 5%. Year 2022, $505,000 at 5%. Year 2023, $530,000, 5%. Year 2024, $560,000 at 5%. Year 2025, $585,000, 5%. Year 2026, $615,000, 5%. 2027, $650,000, 5%. Year 2028, $680,000, 5%. Year 2029, $715,000, 5%. Year 2030, $755,000, 5%. Year 2031, $790,000, 4%. Year 2032, $820,000, 3.125%. Year 2033, $845,000, interest 3.250. Year 2034, $870,000, 3.250. Year 2035, $900,000, interest rate 3.250. Year 2036, $930,000, 3.375. Year 2037, $965,000, 3.375. Year 2038, $995,000, 3.5%. Year 2040, $2,100,000, 3.5%. Year 2043, $3,440,000, 3.5%. Okay. Further voted that the bonds maturing on July 15th, 2040 and July 15th, 2043, each a term bond shall be subject to mandatory redemption or mature as follows. Term bond due July 15th, 2040, year 2039, $1,030,000. Year 2040, $1,070,000. Term bond due July 15th, 2043. Year 2041, amount $1,105,000. Year 2042, $1,145,000. Year 2043, $1,190,000. And that's final maturity. Further voted that in connection with the marketing and sale of bonds, the preparation and distribution of the notice of shall in primarily official state dated June 27, 2018, and final official statement dated July 12, 2018, the official statement, which in such form as may be approved by the town treasurer, be hereby ratified, confirmed, approved, and adopted further voted that the bond shall be subject to redemption at the option of the town upon such terms and conditions are as set forth in official statement. Further voted that the town treasurer and the Board of Selectmen be and hereby authorized to execute and deliver a continuing disclosure undertaking in compliance with section rule 15C2-12 in such form as may be approved by bond counsel to the town, which undertaking shall be incorporated by reference in the bonds for the benefit of the holders of the bond from time to time. Further voted that we authorize and directed the treasurer to establish post-insurance federal tax compliance procedures in such as the treasurer and bond counsel deem sufficient, or if such procedures are currently in place, to review and update said procedures in order to monitor and maintain tax-exempt status of the bonds. Further voted that each member of the Board of Selectmen, the town clerk, and the town treasurer be and hereby are authorized to take any and all such actions and execute and deliver such certificates, receipts, or other documents that may be determined by them or any of them to be necessary and convenient to carry into effect the provisions of foregoing votes. I further certify that the votes were taken at the meeting open to the public, that no vote was taken by secret ballot, that the notice stating the place, time, and agenda for the meeting, which agenda included adoption of above votes, was filed with the town clerk, and copy thereof posted in a manner conspicuously visible to the public at all hours or in and on municipal building that the office of the town clerk is located, or if applicable, in accordance with the alternative method of notice prescribed or approved by the Attorney General as set forth in 940 CMR 29-02B at least 48 hours, not including Saturdays, Sundays, and legal holidays, prior to the time meeting, and remain so posted at the time of the meeting, that no deliberations or decisions in connection with the sale of the bonds were taken in executive session, all accordance with general law C-30A, Section 18 through 25 as amended, dated July 26, 2018. To be signed by the clerk of the board.
Karen, just a question.
Yep, there's,
Okay, so-
those are the originals, Mr. Snow.
I need water.
Go ahead.
Me too.
On the list of years with the amount,
Yeah.
is that principal plus interest?
I believe those are principal amounts.
Principal amount, so the interest is over and above that.
Yes.
So in other words, for 2019, which is the current fiscal year, you'll be paying back 95,000.
Yes, in principal, and what happened, the reason that's a small amount is because we did a long coupon. So there's actually, because we hadn't budgeted any interest 6 months out, what we did is we did a 1-year coupon. So the first interest payment won't be due until July of 2019.
So in other words, in 2020, the 460, that's the first year that we really see a large
Correct.
increase in
Yep.
payment, which will be reflected on the tax rate at that
Right.
time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman?
Okay.
So,
Sorry,
I was
go ahead.
gonna
No,
say,
go
I think so, you're going to second and vote that? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it a motion?
I'll second. Did you make a motion?
Oh.
I'll make that motion.
So,
For the clerk to sign? The motion is for you to sign, right?
Okay, so somebody else should
So,
make the
Mr.
motion.
Mr. Chairman, so, Mr. Snow made, that was actually the motion.
The motion?
We need it seconded and voted on, and then the clerk of the board, Mr. Snow, needs to sign that.
I'll second the motion.
Those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it.
Okay, now we have a very large pile of paperwork to sign. The first thing that we're going to be signing are the notes. So basically, there's one for every year, for every maturity. So there's 23 of them. what I,
Is that just the clerk or all of us?
nope, this is all of us. So I'll sign first, and then if we can just kind of keep these going around.
Sounds good.
You might wanna
Can I
move
ask
the
a
water
question?
out of the way.
Yeah, that's why.
Water's working.
Can I ask a question? I mean, from the reading, it sounded like the interest rate varied and it was kind of
Yes.
like front-end loaded. Is that accurate?
Basically, what happens is when you go out to bid for bonds, the person that's bidding on it gives you the structure that they want.
Right.
And what we look at is the net, or is the average interest cost, which is the 3.35. But basically, they structure the rate. It starts out, it's basically based on what the yield curve is like, and
Yep.
now the yield curve is almost inverted.
Yep.
So it does start out, the first couple of years are 4 and 5%, and the 5% goes until 2031, drops back to 4, and then the later ones are in the low 3s. So,
Right.
but that's a function of the,
Their structure.
of their structure and the current yield curve.
And in aggregate, though, it comes to annual interest rate is 3.35.
The average, basically.
Because it sounded like the back end was essentially zero, you're just paying back principal. Is that accurate?
Well, and what we do is we structure them so that we have level debt payments. So what happens is, it's kind of like a mortgage.
Mortgage.
You pay.
Glad it's not my mortgage.
It is.
Part of it is.
Yeah.
Well, it is.
Too Van Gogh wouldn't be happy.
Halfway done.
Run out of ink.
You might. So the next document we have is the signature, no litigation, and official statement certificate. And basically what we're saying here is that we are authorized to sign these. There's no litigation pending that would have any effect on the bonds, and we have completed our official statement, and there are no material misstatements in it. There's only 4 of each one of these. The next item is the tax certificate, which basically says that we will do everything we need to do to keep these bonds tax exempt. Finally, you have the continuing disclosure certificate, which basically says, told the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth
I do.
about the town of Raleigh. And we will basically continue through the life of the bonds to fill out a disclosure with regard to the condition of the town's finances, which is something I do every year.
That's it, nothing else.
Isn't that enough? You could read that motion again.
I just make a comment too, Karen, that, you know, when we had town meeting, there was a lot of talk about the available free cash and the amount of stabilization money we have. But one of the important issues in setting the bond rating AA plus is the fact that the bond rating agencies look at how much free cash do we have. We're not spending every nickel that we have. We have money in the stabilization fund for emergencies, so those are important factors in getting a better bond rating, which means a lower interest rate. So
Absolutely.
one reason why we're careful about how we spend our free cash and putting some money into the stabilization fund every year is it's very important that, number one, we have that money available for emergencies, but also for our bond rating and the general structure of the financial stability of the town. We need to have that money available. And for many, many years, we did not have that.
Right.
We had next to nothing. So we've, over the last few years, with this board and the
This last set doesn't say town seal. Do you want it on there, or don't want to add
nope.
anything they don't ask for?
Nope.
But the last few years, we've really made an effort to build up whatever we can for not to spend all the free cash and also to add to the stabilization. And this is, at times like this is when it makes a difference.
I think that's the last one.
It's very important for the stability of the town.
That's the last one.
Absolutely. That's one of the most important things that the rating agencies look at, are your fund balances.
Not asking for anything. That was fun.
All right,
That's it.
well, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. Okay, we have an appointment with Ron Nealon, Chairman, the Board of Shellfish Commissioners, to discuss aquaculture license application process. We originally planned to have a joint meeting tonight with the Board of Shellfish Commissioners to discuss the continuation of the aquaculture program. The aquaculture application process was always administered through the Shellfish Department, with the Board of Selectmen holding the official public hearing and approving the license. Bob Snow has been in contact with the Shellfish Board Chairman, Ron Nealon. Ron, good evening.
Hello.
And plans to attend the Shellfish Commissioners meeting tomorrow evening. Bob has also been working with the Division of Marine Fisheries. The division sent Amy an email with a draft of a legal notice on the aquaculture renewals. According to the list provided by the DMF, there are 4 licenses eligible for renewal at Clubhead Sands, and 3 licenses are eligible to be reissued at Clubhead Sands. There are 6 licenses eligible for renewal at Hog Island Point. 2 applicants did not sign their applications. The DMF is asking the Board of Selectmen to hold a public hearing on the applications on July 30th. The legal notice needs to be published in the Daily News not less than 10 days for the date of the hearing. We need information from the Shellfish Department on the length of the period of the license. Based on a review of prior aquacultural licenses, the fee amount has been $25. As the Shellfish Department collected the license fees for the pending applications, the fees were not submitted with the applications. Are there any Shellfish Department regulations or special requirements per the Shellfish Planting General Bylaw regarding who is checking the boundary markers of the license areas up for renewal? Licensees are required to file an annual report on the number and kind of shellfish planted, produced, or marketed in the license area during the preceding year. We don't have any reports from the license holders currently up for renewal. Okay, so where do we start?
I guess we have to get on those people on filing their reports.
Okay. So
some guys haven't even taken the, haven't bought their license, even their town license, in 2 years. The information that I sent the man from the state was the existing information that was the previous, what was had been going on with the license holders. What I was trying to do was, I knew that the 2 sites that the town had were expiring. I was trying to get those 2 sites reinstated and then pursue the people that were interested in doing the leases again. You know what I mean? Because it has to be an application by the town to the state to get the site authorized. And then the people that want to pursue a lease, those sites are broken down into 1-acre lots. They apply for a license. It has to go through the Concom, I believe, as well.
Yes.
And then if it's approved, they have a site.
Okay. Well, so we need to have these questions addressed, Debbie? Is that what you're saying? The 4 questions.
We've got, so based on the communication from Division of Marine Fisheries to Amy Lyden, we do have a draft of a legal notice that they actually prepared, and they sent us PDF versions of these applications from those various individuals. And Ron, did you see that?
I have not seen it.
So that was on that email. Why don't you take this? And this is, so if the it's going to be on July 10th, and I believe Mr. Snow has said at a prior selectmen's meeting that a representative Division of Marine Fisheries is planning to come here on July 30th. So that would probably, knowing schedules, and he is coming from the South Shore.
Yes.
I guess we need some confirmation, because if we need to run an ad in the Daily News, there's some lead time on that. In the
10 days
it's
prior.
not less than 10 days before the date of the hearing. It would need to be in by Friday. That's the only, or earlier. That would be better. And we would need to know that all the individuals listed in those 2 tables for Clubhead Sands and Hog Island Point are in fact all set, including there's 2 applications that were not signed, so it's not clear. We can always take them off, but unfortunately we'd have to have another process of refiling.
Ron, have you heard from those 2 individuals?
No.
Okay.
I submitted everything that I had to that guy, and
Okay.
he wanted to talk with the selectmen of the town only. He didn't want to deal with me at all. Did not return calls or anything, so it's been kind of at a standstill until Mr. Snow picked it up again.
But it's hard for us to reach out to these individuals, and
I
know
can
you're
try to
in the
get
you're in the
their
community.
signature again.
So we could run the ad, tentatively plan for the hearing on the 30th. In the meantime, I think that the state, I mean, since they're the ones that gave us this, is saying that these two flats are all set for either renewal or reissuance. I'm not sure what the difference is under the Division of Marine Fisheries regulations, but we do have that Site 4 as a reissuance, and Sites 8 and 11 on Club Head Sands are
Now-
reissuances, not renewals.
The way Mr. Shalaki explained it to me, the license have expired, but there's like a I don't want to call it a grace period, but a period afterwards where you could still apply for the license or renew the license.
So this would be the reissuance that he's got listed in the
Reissuance
table.
of the license. If it goes beyond 3 years, as I recall, then the state has to come out, there's no run, and walk the flat,
The flat has to be certified non-productive.
non-productive.
How they do that is they bring out 10 people. They start at the end of the flat, and there's so many feet apart, and they dig a hole, and they record what is found in that. Each person digs a hole, and they record what is found in that hole. If there's nothing harvested out of that hole, they write 0. If it's 2 clams, they write 2 clams. If it's 1 razor clam, they write 1 razor clam. Then they take so many steps forward, and they dig another hole, and they do that the whole flat. Then they take a percentage of what they've found as opposed to what they deem productive, and if it's under that, then they deem the flat non-productive, and they let you put it out for aquaculture. So the licenses that I was trying to get reinstated was for the town to have those 2 flats reinstated, and then I was going to pursue who wanted the actual lots themselves later, because there's no sense of doing that if I can't get the license reinstated to begin with.
Mr. Chairman, it seems like the Division of Marine Fisheries is doing something opposite to what Mr. Leland just said. It seems like, based on their communication, they're asking for the Board of Selectmen to vote and approve them, and then send a request to DMF to recertify them. We will conduct a site visit, and if applicable, reissue our certification. The other licenses can be issued immediately. So it sounds like they're actually asking, and that's based on that email on the second page of that packet, Mr. Nealon, the opposite of, I guess, what is customarily done by DMF. And maybe that's to expedite the process, as Mr. Snow said, to fall within that window of renewal period. So I think that if the board is amenable, we can run the hearing notice in the newspaper, have the hearing on the 30th. I just would like confirmation that the names that are on there are accurate with respect to the 2 that didn't sign the applications, just to make sure they're part of it, if we could know that as soon as possible. And then all the other requirements that go into the program that really aren't run out of the office, checking the boundaries, and then asking all the license holders to have the annual reports, and then having the filing fee. Usually that will accompany an application. It will be held until the license is actually issued. But if we could just ask all the license holders to submit and be, I don't know if the board wants them present for the hearing. I presume you probably do. I'm not sure.
Can we advertise the hearing, and prior to the hearing, each one of the license holders, licensees, must submit a signed application along with a check.
We do have those. They're in your
Right, but then
packet.
you'd also need a check. And at the date of the hearing, if we don't have a check and a
In your report of the past year, they're supposed to file.
an annual report and the application fee, then we won't renew. We've got to move this along, these people.
Yeah.
In other words, so.
I agree.
So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 12 people here, give or take.
Where do
So,
we-
on the 30th, these 12 people need to give us a check for 25, which we'll hold until everything's final, a completed application form, and a one-page report, or whatever the report's required. And anyone that doesn't have that, we aren't gonna renew it, and later on, because of the cost of advertising in the Newburyport News, which is substantial, it's multiple hundreds of dollars, right, to advertise a legal ad in the Newburyport News, they're out of luck. In other words, we gotta move this thing along, we can't keep going with it. This will give everybody a chance. Now, if you don't think, if you need more time from the 30th, can we
No,
postpone?
I'll call them either tonight or tomorrow and see if
Okay.
they want to pursue it. They signed it before. Some guys are on the fence about it. I mean, if they say they don't want to, I'll just write the names who want it and who don't want it, and then
You can let the office know prior to the 30th exactly.
But we'll run the
who will
ad
be
with
in.
everyone listed, but if Mr.
Right.
Nealon happens to find out sooner, it'd be
Does
better
the
to.
legal ad have to have all these people
Yes,
listed?
it's this template that was
Okay, that's the
provided by
template.
DMF, which lists everyone's name. That's why I just wanted to clarify, because I
If you do
presume.
that, I think we could move the process along, and then
Yeah.
that's it. After the 30th, we just, whoever's in is in, and whoever didn't submit the forms is, I'm sorry, but you're out. You know, I mean, we can't keep fooling with this.
Where does the free license go? Does that have
Where
anything
does
to do
what?
with this? The free license.
I don't know anything about a free license.
You can get a free license if you're over 60.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't think
Yeah.
that's aquaculture, I think that's under the shellfish bylaw.
No, well,
No,
it's under
if
something.
if somebody over
On the
60 gets a license and they, a commercial license, then I still think they have to pay the 25 for.
Yeah, I
the
think they do too.
aquaculture
If it's commercial.
permit. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
commercial.
This isn't for, an aquaculture license though.
Must have been met with it,
But
along with it, but pay for the cost, but it's generally a free one.
if it's but that's if it's a personal license, right, not a
Yes.
commercial.
No,
it's-
if
And then
a
the,
resident that's over 60 can get a commercial license free.
okay,
That's the way the town has set it up, but I'm pretty sure he has to pay the 25 for
Yeah,
the,
this is a separate issue.
because it's a separate issue, yeah.
Does that
And-
sound
That's-
acceptable to
that's
everybody?
good.
Yeah, it sounds good to me.
and the
So
only
do you
thing
need
I
a-
need is
a
a
vote?
vote from the board.
To
so I can-
hold the hearing, and I will wait for Mr. Nealon to call me, if he could call me tomorrow morning, and just let me know if the two people that didn't sign the applications still want to go forward. They filled out the application, they just
If you
didn't sign it.
oversight.
We'll take their name off, but I'd really like to get it in, so it runs on Thursday, gives us one day. Friday is the very last
Now,
day.
tomorrow night, the Shellfish Commission's going to meet, so I'd just like a vote from the board, that, so be the representative from the board to meet.
Yeah, no, I'll make a motion that we hold a hearing on the 30th.
Well, I mean, for tomorrow night, to meet with the Shellfish Commission.
All right, but do you second that?
Yes, I'll second that motion.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, the ayes have it. And so you want another motion for you to?
Just to meet with the,
I'll make a motion to have Bob represent the board at the Shellfish Commission's meeting.
Second?
Whatever the date is.
Okay.
All's in favor?
Aye.
All's opposed, the ayes have it. Okay.
So I'll just select the time, is there a specific time on the 30th you want to have
Whatever's
this?
available.
You want to, we're starting to line up quite a few
If
things.
the guy's
Would you
coming
like
up from the
it?
state, he'd probably like to
maybe
get it
s-
on early
Yeah, I
rather
would-
Would the
than
board
down
like
here.
to start at
he's
6:30
coming
that
up from New
evening?
Bedford.
He's coming up from North South Shore, he'd probably,
So we'll say 6:30 and
he'll
then,
start at noontime to get up here and then,
Okay, so we'll say
he'll wanna
6:30.
get out of here.
Yeah,
6:30 on
6:30 is
July
good.
30th. Okay, so that information Mr. Nealon can convey to
Okay.
the license.
Ron, I see you tomorrow night, 6:30, right?
Yep, in the library.
Great, okay.
Okay, our final appointment is with James Motzkin.
Thanks, Ron.
JRM Hauling and Recycling to discuss recycling cost increases. Jimmy Motzkin is unable to attend this evening's meeting due to a death in his family. He has assigned a representative from JRM, Ricky Floramo.
That's me.
Thank you for coming to it.
Why don't you go on up?
I wasn't gonna say that, to attend the meeting on his behalf. The first point that needs to be discussed is the June 2018 recycling bill. We don't have the funds to cover the bill. We were aware that we would be charged the $125 for the use of JRM's containers, since the town's containers are no longer usable. The fees for the hauling and disposal increase in June from $65 to $150 hauling, and $35 per ton to $75 per ton for disposal. An $85 increase for hauling and a $40 increase per ton for disposal. The contract provides for pricing and has not been amended. The second point deals with a long-term issue. The town's FY19 budget cannot cover the cost. The annual cost under these price points bring us over $50,000 per year, Debbie?
Yes.
Which doesn't exclude the extra hauling and recycling we need during the holiday season. What kind of options do we have? Some ideas could be limit what is accepted at the recycling center to just paper and cardboard. This will reduce the number of bins we're renting from JRM and the hauling and recycling costs. One problem to strongly consider with this idea is that people who enter the site off hours, as they currently do, may continue to dispose of plastics, glass, etc. We may be charged penalties for this. Who would charge the penalties for that? For us
Oh,
doing
well,
it?
the vendor, because if we have an agreement,
Okay.
if we revise the agreement and it's just for paper and we don't have a secured site.
Okay. Close. Another option or idea is to close the center pending the move of the center to a secured area. Phase out the closing for a determined period of time with the FY19 budget parameters and give the public due notice, 3 months or 4 months. Another idea is try to get additional funding at a special fall-winter town meeting to continue operating the center. The total fiscal year estimated cost is over $50,000 based on the amount JRM is saying they need to charge the town on a monthly basis. So we will need another approximately $32,000 to $33,000 at least in addition to the current FY19 appropriation of $19,000. Another final idea, solicit prices from other recycling companies, though I'm not sure if that will result in a dramatic price reduction. Ricky, anything to add to that, or you want to add?
I just want everyone to know that every town and city in the entire United States is dealing with this right now. I was in the city of Everett last Friday, and they're having a similar situation. And it's just the recycling market is just non-existent anymore.
Is that because of China not accepting these materials?
It is. That is exactly what it is, and there was absolutely no value to it anymore, because India is not accepting it, China's not accepting it, and there was just no value.
So where does the stuff go?
The stuff, it goes to recyclers, but we have to pay for it as trash, because they're no longer willing to accept it without a fee. And we're hoping it gets better, but I can't guarantee that it's going to get any better. It could actually get worse.
What's the hardest thing to get rid of?
Glass.
Glass?
Glass is non-recyclable, but it's the largest and heaviest commodity in the recycle stream. One way, a suggestion that we would come up with is don't allow the citizens to get rid of glass. Make them throw the glass away. It is non-recyclable, and it probably counts for about 50% of your weight that the towns are paying for in the recycle stream.
I find it hard to believe. Nobody recycles glass.
No, there's no market for it. It gets thrown away. Glass gets
Everything's
thrown away.
plastic now.
Yes.
I mean, when you look at it, you buy.
It's cheaper for them
Can't buy
to make glass out of sand
Exactly.
than to recycle the glass and melt it down. And
One of the big problems we have is, and I've gone down a few times. I know Debbie and the office people have gone down. Is we don't have a secure site. In other words, our site is owned by the Mass DPW, Mass Highway Department.
So it's a wide open yard?
It's a wide open yard. We talked about fencing it at one time, but if we try to fence it, there's no way for your trucks to get in there to pick up the bins and drop them off without creating a huge hassle.
Understand.
So consequently, what happens on a fairly regular basis now is that during the week when it's unmanned, I see people going in there all the time, dropping off whatever. Now,
Right.
because there's no attendant there, they can drop everything from, like, the other day I was down there and there was a bunch of plastic ride-around toys in front of one of the bins. Well, that's not recyclable.
No.
But people leave it there because they don't know what else, I guess. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. They don't know what else to do with it.
And if I can correct you, it's not that they're trying to do the wrong thing. They just don't understand what is recyclable.
Sure.
And I think that's the main issue.
It's hard to understand with all these numbers.
It is.
You look and you see the symbol, maybe 5 or 6, but I understand no
Exactly.
one wants that stuff, right?
I don't even know what that is
Yeah.
myself. When you go to plastic, all these different plastics.
Basically, all the plastics now, according to the Board of Health sheet, is recyclable.
Right.
Other than styrofoam and.
Right, no styrofoam, but the glass
So, I
is
mean,
a major
our
issue.
problem really is, and like I went down there, when the staff here went down a couple of times, and during the winter time, like at Christmas time, everybody gets Amazon packages and so on and so forth, but instead of folding up the boxes, they just, there's boxes like this that are empty, thrown in the bin, taking up all kinds of space, so by the time
And a lot of
Saturday
times they
comes
leave the
along,
styro-
it's not so much that the thing is full, it's
No.
just wasted space.
Absolutely, and they leave the styrofoam in the packaging, which makes that cardboard box non-recyclable.
Yeah.
And it actually gets separated and thrown into the trash pile, which is unfortunate. And the only thing worth any value is some of the paper in the cardboard.
Was there, I noticed, like, if you go to McDonald's or Dunkin' Donuts, a lot of these places where they deal with cardboard all
Yes.
day long, they have a bin with a slit in it.
Exactly.
That's something that we could take a look at.
Absolutely, that forces people to fold that box and slide it in. So that it's mostly for the employees, that they can't just throw
Right,
full
they-
boxes.
Yes, to get the maximum.
Of course.
Space.
Yes.
I mean, I hate to see the recycling, I mean, I recycle, I'm there every other week.
Right.
With mostly plastics and paper. I get some glass, but there's not too many things you buy anymore with glass anyhow. But, so I hate to see it go. But on the other hand, $50,000 a year is just the beginning. I mean, I remember,
exactly.
I was on the board back in early 90s when we closed the landfill. And we went through hell trying to close the landfill, trying to pay per bag.
Right.
It was brutal, and we finally just gave up and said we can't do it, and told people to either have it privately picked up or go to Mellow in Georgetown.
Exactly.
Now, I understand Mellow in Georgetown is charging now for recyclables. They didn't
Everyone
before.
is. Everyone is charging for
Everyone's
recycling.
charging.
Mellow.
Charging something.
There's also a Mellow in Newbury, which is an excellent facility.
I actually think they're the same company. I think they're just two different
I think
facilities.
doesn't Pearson run the Newbury dump?
No, I think, well, it's
It might
it's
be
a
Mellow.
Mellow.
No, I
facility.
think Mellow, yes.
The last thing I knew, they didn't charge unless they've just recently.
the same
Yes,
company,
it
'cause
keeps
they're
on
in
going
Sal-
up and
they're in
up
Salisbury.
as we go.
But there are other recycling options. I mean,
Absolutely. And I encourage the town to, listen, you have to answer the taxpayers. You should get a bid from some other haulers as well.
I think the last time we did it, you were the only one that gave us a.
Yeah, some people,
We solicited
there's a lot of
bids
companies that won't even
2
do
or
it.
3 years ago, you were
Yes.
the only one, and
Yeah.
I have to, in your favor, the company we had before, we had all kinds of problems with.
Right.
Your company has been really excellent to
Yeah,
work with.
thank you
and
for saying that, yeah.
Responsive, and every Monday, I check that a couple of times a week, I'll
Right.
go through there, and every Monday, the trucks are in there hauling the bins out.
The
so
service is fantastic.
I feel bad for the drivers who got stopped, because I know those bins.
Yes,
are in
right.
terrible shape,
Yes.
but, I mean, we need to, take a real look at the recycling. I think what I would, at this point, I would say is figure out how much money we got. I mean, I'm not particularly in favor of going back to getting the 30-odd thousand at town meeting. I don't know where we're gonna draw that money from, but, is take a look at getting what the cost of a bin for cardboard and paper would be.
Exactly. If you could separate that, if the town could separate the
That
material.
would keep out most of the plastic, and
Yes.
that pretty much and you could put newspapers and stuff in there too, right?
You could mix paper and cardboard together if it's strictly that type of
It's
material.
not much of a recycling program if you don't take glass or plastic.
You're
Let's
absolutely
face it,
right.
people want to get rid of that stuff.
There are some towns, Plymouth, Mass. does not even do recycling anymore.
Well,
That's what I'm getting at.
That's where I'm leading.
Yeah.
I think 50,000 a year is just too much money.
I couldn't agree more.
For lousy, I shouldn't use
Yeah.
that word. It's not a great facility. As we've all said, it's not secure. And when there's rain or snow on the ground, it's awful. I mean, you step in puddles, and it's just not worth 50,000 a year. And
City of Everett actually considered not recycling. If the mayor could, politically, if he could do it, he would stop recycling, but he can't, politically, he can't do it.
Well, they have curbside pickup though, right?
Yes.
So we don't have that, so
Right,
I don't know
right.
how upset, I don't know how
Yeah.
upset people will be. I'm a big fan of recycling.
I am
but
too.
I don't think it's worth 50,000 a year, I just don't.
If it's costing that much money to get rid of it, maybe
I
the
don't know.
taxpayers might think
That's only
twice
the
about it.
start, probably.
In a half measure, like just taking paper, I mean, we still have the issue of the secure facility, and no matter what kind of bin you have, you know. It's not a good facility. I don't know, I kinda think we should end the program and think about starting it up at a future time when we get, the Didex building and,
We need a secure site.
possibly use the
Before we
electric.
get back into it, we need a secure site. It has to be locked up during the week when we don't.
I
have
would
it.
say that's that's the number one problem.
Could we
You know, so you
maybe,
can control what's getting into the waste stream.
could we maybe figure out what amount of money we have available and work with JRM to figure out, you know, hauling and whatever.
Absolutely, and we will absolutely work with
Come up
this
with a
most
couple of
recent invoice
programs,
still.
and
We
maybe we
understand.
can continue if it's 2 or 3 months.
Sure.
And give everybody, decide on a close down date, give everybody time to, so they're aware of it, we can put out notices and so on and so
Yes.
forth. And at the same time, well, until we get a site, that's, we're hurting, because we don't have a decent site that we can
It's a
secure.
terrible situation.
And I've seen it up there, I mean, like I say, I check it all the time, and the place is a disaster. And as Cliff said, you go there in the wintertime, and it's snow and ice, and if the bins aren't wide enough apart, the highway department can't plow.
Right.
The mud, and it's a, I hate to say it, it's a disgrace, it really is.
It's a tough situation.
It's something that, you know, we need a site, and if we get Didax, we can make there's a couple of other sites that would open up some spots where we could get a secure site, but until then, and maybe by then, there'd be a better handle on, we can set up a new program
Yes.
that would, you know, keep the hauler happy, yourself or whoever it is, and allow people who wanna recycle the chance to recycle.
I was gonna say, maybe the economics would change by that point, but.
We're hoping, we're banking on it, but we're, you know, optimistic about it, but we don't know what's gonna happen with the market. We need it to go up.
If China's not taking it, who's taking it?
No one's taking it. Yeah,
Where's
but
it going?
it's still going to China and India, but at a cost now. Now they're not
okay.
accepting it for free.
Okay,
Now they're
not
charging
them.
us.
Now they're
to
charging.
take it.
You're gonna pass that on to the town.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
okay.
Yeah, it's a tough situation. The state of Massachusetts granted the city of Everett $40,000 grant, education grant, to educate the citizens on what can be recycled and what cannot be recycled. Just to help them in some way, because people, like I said, they're trying to do the right thing, but they don't know what to recycle. Because, like you said, it changes every month. So it's a tough situation.
So, Mr. Chairman, we do have to get back to sort of the material point of the meeting, which was that June invoice. We don't have $4,224 to pay that, and we haven't amended the contract, as I pointed out to the board previously and to Mr. Motzkin, that I was anticipating him coming in
Yes.
in June, but we hadn't had a chance to do that, to discuss. As we understood, he needed to raise his rates. He's losing money. He can terminate the contract
Anytime, right?
with 30 days' notice. Both parties can. So I was hoping that we could work out a solution for the June bill, which would be some type of amendment to the contract. We do understand the bins, $125 for the bins.
Yes.
We had an unexpected issue with our.
And Jim did authorize me to let you guys know that we absolutely will work with the town on the June invoice, because we do understand it.
You know,
Pain.
but I have no more than $2,000 to cover.
Why don't we authorize the town administrator to work with you people?
Great.
At a future meeting.
Sure.
We'll figure out what to do with the June bill, or maybe we have to carry some forward in the next town meeting, pay an old bill, you know what I mean?
We're fine with that.
Or something. If you guys are willing to handle that, in the meantime,
Absolutely.
if you could work out a program whereby if we wanted to run the program for, say, 3 months, what some options might be
Okay.
to save the minimums, we got 19,000, give or take, which is your money plus what we pay the attendants to be there on the weekend.
Understand.
If we can work out something to at least get it through September, October, and
Well, if we have 19,000 that we can use, why is there a
For
problem?
fiscal, that's fiscal
Oh, I see.
19.
Fiscal 19.
So, we're at the end of the fiscal year, so we're encumbering funds, so while I anticipated a higher invoice,
It wasn't that much.
Yeah, you were
I
shocked.
didn't expect $4,224.
Well,
And
it sounds
if
like
you're
they're very
looking,
workable in terms of working out a deal.
Yes, we've been dealing with the town for a long time, and I know that, we enjoy working for the town, and,
You do a good job, like
Thank
you
you.
say. It's been a pleasure doing business. It's just a shame that the market. But just a question, I go by that building on Route 1 all the time. and
Yes,
it's
Greenworks.
loaded to the gills with stuff,
Right.
so that stuff all gets shipped out to China.
all of it. First it gets separated, a lot of it goes out as trash. And, but the cost for that building, we didn't realize this was going to happen.
Yeah, obviously.
Losing a ton of money on that building.
Oh, yeah, it's a
Yes.
beautiful building.
It's a beautiful building. It looks great.
Great facility.
It is a great facility.
All right, so if we do that, then does that
Because
sound?
we
Well,
have-
I kind of think we should terminate the program at this point. I think I'd be against asking town meeting for additional money to cover shortfalls. I mean, the handwriting's on the wall. Why prolong this, you know?
That's why
Let's
I'm
give
so-
people whatever notice we think is appropriate, like 1 month or 2 months' notice, but, you know, I think, let's just terminate it.
Yeah, I'm not looking for any, I think whatever we do with the 19,000 is what we're gonna do for this
Yeah,
year.
right.
I don't foresee going back for any more money. It's just give us, if we can get, for the next meeting, get some options from JRM and with the town administrator working out the details with your company. We might be able to say, okay, we can run it till October 1st, or, September 1st, or whatever.
Well,
I don't know, whatever the amount of monies work out, so we can pay the employees who man it, as well as pay the hauling and the tonnage fees.
Give the town some notice, the citizens some notice.
Yeah.
yeah, because it is 19,000, and if we're over 4,000 a month,
Yeah, it's not gonna go
it's
too
not going very far. And in which case, maybe we write an amendment to the contract and then close it out.
Right.
Okay.
I don't know.
I
Do we
don't
need
feel
a
very
do we need a
comfortable.
new contract? If it's month to month anyway, it's not much of a contract, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Let's wait and
Just
see
throw
when
it
we
out
make a
there.
decision on what we're gonna do, and then if we have to, we'll close it.
We're fine with whatever you people decide.
Need a
I think we
motion
have
for
to be
something like that,
careful.
Debbie?
Well, I need a motion
We really
to
do.
authorize me
There's
to.
no question.
It's not
Could
gonna
go
be
right.
on the side
Any,
of the road.
any
Absolutely.
comment from the audience on the subject?
Yes, sir, right here.
Okay.
We have to be very careful how we're doing this, because if we're gonna wind up with that stuff on the side of the road, we really will.
Well,
If you can't drive down there on
Well, that's why
Saturday,
notice is important. And
on Sunday or Saturday morning
Yeah.
and get rid of your trash,
Miss-
they're just gonna keep going down the street and throw it out the
Mr.
windows.
Chairman, Amy and I discussed this fact, and we thought that we would probably keep the recycling operators on, to monitor the place for a few Saturdays after it's closed, and we get signage up,
Good idea.
and then put some horses there to block it off, and notify Mass
signage.
DOT.
Plus the fact that, I have someone pick up my trash every Monday. And I take out, obviously, the recyclables I take out, and every couple of 3 weeks I go down to Selectmen, and it's just, my stuff is gonna have to go in the trash bucket. So, I mean, it's not like I'm going from having no trash, dumping everything at the site. I'm still gonna have to either have Mello or Mike Cook or whoever else you use to pick up your trash. It's just, they're gonna end up picking up a little more trash than what
Right.
they used to.
And they'll probably go up on the
They
price
may
of
go up on their rates, but
Yes.
one of the things we found when we closed the landfill back in the early 90s was that was our biggest worry, was we're gonna find all kinds of stuff down Boxford Road,
What happens?
Stackyard Road, and
Did it happen?
very little,
Well.
very, very little. There was an occasionally a conditioner or a TV, which you still get now. But for the most part, people were, it's a citizens, we gotta take care of our town, so we're hoping that people will.
I think once
not
people
dump
understand
trash.
that it's closed, they will not put.
Plus, they gotta go to the dump with it, one way or the other, they gotta take some to the dump anyhow, so just take the whole thing, so.
But it's gonna end up on the side of roads.
To some degree.
I think it's gonna be like the 60s all over again.
Well, I hope not.
Remember that.
People have to take some pride in their town and not do that. I mean, what do we do? We're between a rock and a hard place. If it's 50,000 we need for this year, next year it'll be 60, 70, 80.
It could be worse.
Meanwhile, we're trying to fund the schools and other essential town services we're running out of places to steal money. So, I mean, and if it's one of those things that you guys are basically hauling it to the trash dealer anyway. We're paying you to haul the trash anyhow.
Right.
Then people just will pay to haul their own, and, you know.
$50,000.
I'm sorry, I hate to say that, but, and like I
$50,000.
You're
say,
right, you're correct.
like I say, but, well, I think we probably all do recycling. I know I do. I've been doing it for years, ever since we opened it, and I'll miss it, but, I mean, what else do we do? Times are changing.
$50,000 doesn't seem like a lot of money until you sit down and do the budget.
I think it's a lot of money.
A lot of money.
Oh, it is a
I
lot.
consider it a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
Sure.
And, you know,
So,
And we're willing to, you know, JRM is willing to work, whatever the town needs us to do, we're more than willing to do that. And, we understand the situation is, it's an unwinnable situation right now, so,
Yeah.
whatever we can do.
maybe if we just continue this until the 30th,
And I'll-
and then come in with some paperwork if we need to sign a renewal, or we'll have some idea of what the actual options are at that time.
And I can come
And
up,
people can, if people wanna come in, talk to us, then they're more than willing to do that too, but.
if you need to see us, I can come up multiple times, if you have different
Okay.
questions or options,
Mhm.
anything that you need us to do that, I'll be glad to come up and, you know, speak to you.
Bertie?
Yeah, I mean, twice a year we have a white goods or metals recycling day and a household chemical recycling day. And that seems to be well attended and well used. If the value is in the cardboard and paper goods that are already essentially pre-compressed, does it make any sense to think about opening up the highway department every month for a cardboard and paper recycling day, one Saturday morning, put it into a big 24-foot container and just haul it straight out that way?
Well, right now, the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, every other month, behind the Congregational Church paper and
They missed it this month because there was an issue with the container.
Okay, but normally they
Whatever
do
company they
that.
get it from. I don't know who they get it from.
Well, I mean, it seems to me as though if
Once a
there's-
month, if I'm gonna bring my papers down once a month, you need a pickup truck. I happen to have one, but
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we-
in
we
between
can't-
newspapers and
Stuff that keep running straight
cardboard
fast.
and all that,
But
the
you
stuff
need an
builds up.
80% solution. You're not going to get a 100% solution because that's pretty clear. Because
About a 20% solution, I would
Sorry,
say.
it's a 20%.
But a part-time solution ends up being more work and money than what you think it is. It's a coordination of help and bins, and then people go down the wrong weekend. They, instead of going the third weekend, they missed it, they go the fourth and leave it outside the gate. I mean, as far as I'm concerned personally, either we do it or we don't do it.
Those that do it themselves will probably end up having to go over to Mellow, either in Newbury or Georgetown. That's the way it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
that's
I mean,
where
I hate to-
that's where I take my stuff.
Right.
Where Melrose.
I've been doing
I
that for
hate to
years.
be a naysayer, but either we do it or we don't do it. This half-time stuff, we see it now with just being open Saturday morning for 4 hours. The fact that people are coming in there all week long dumping stuff. I mean, some people work Saturday morning, some work weekends, others work, it's such a diversion of shifts and days worked and stuff like that, that unless you're open 7 days a week or 5 days a week, it's hard for somebody. There's no two ways about it.
Right.
I just, we don't have the help and the ability to, these people are straight out on all these other projects. We can't be week in and week out fighting over, people that lift trash somewhere, or the highway surveyor doesn't want all that trash dumped in his yard down
Totally
there.
understand.
So it's a difficult situation.
It is. And all the towns are going through it,
Yeah.
not just you guys.
Oh, there's been a lot of articles in the paper. Newburyport
Yeah,
News
shit.
had a big editorial
Right.
a couple of weeks back explaining the whole situation.
Well, Waste Management, our competitor, they're the largest recycler in the world. They closed 2 gigantic facilities, recycling. Just closed them down, shut the door. Lost billions of dollars. So it's a tough situation.
Right, so.
So, would you like Mr. Floramo to attend on the 30th,
Oh,
maybe?
if someone
Sure.
can come in and have,
In the
in the
meantime,
meantime,
I'll work
work
with
with
him
you
on
to
a
come up with
plan.
some solutions and.
For the June 30th, ending this fiscal,
Yeah, I won't
that
be here June
invoice,
30th.
and, for July 30th, but the
July
bill
30th, yeah.
ending for last fiscal year, and then, coming up with a solution to maybe phase out and then with the funds available.
Yeah, we'll work out some solutions at that point. It's just
We're-
sad that it's gotta go this way, but I don't see
We
the
agree.
choice we have. Thank
We're
you.
willing
I think it's a matter of determining how much notice
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
public should get before we end it, and
That's
that's
right.
where I am, so.
And like I said, I would encourage the board to, we'll have the recycling operators, I think, hang on for a couple of Saturdays
Yeah,
after.
yeah, that's fine.
To make sure that.
Because the other thing is, if the other issue is if there's two gates up at this recycling center, the state closes the inner one when they're not there.
Yeah.
They'll close the outer one if our recycling center isn't there. So actually, it may not be as much of a problem there, because the state will just block both gates instead of just locking one that they do now, so.
If Mello is another option, it would help you guys out.
Oh, yeah, so they have a great facility in Newbury.
They do have a beautiful facility
Yeah.
there.
As far as I know, they're not charging unless they,
They will be soon.
yeah.
Yeah.
I know that, I heard they did one in Georgetown, the one in Georgetown.
Right.
Yeah,
Started with
About
that
the
one,
in
yes.
All right, well,
Because Newbury may be subsidizing up there or something too. 'Cause they-
Newbury's odd, they started by charging, and then they stopped charging, because they didn't wanna, I think it had to do with the guy that's running the booth isn't really checking or anything, so
Yeah.
I just don't think they, monitor the recycling.
Well, when you're charging, the thievery can become very easy when you
Oh,
got a
sure.
guy in a booth taking cash.
That's
That
right.
becomes an issue all to itself,
That's
so.
exactly right.
Nothing against people that sit in booths taking cash, but it's
So
pretty
Debbie,
hard to monitor.
Debbie, do you need a vote from us on anything?
Yes, I think it's a vote to, set this out, some authorization to go forward with discussions with JRM.
I'll give you a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Authorize Debbie to work with JRM on a plan and a June bill,
Okay.
plan.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All's opposed? You guys have it.
Thank you for coming in.
You're
sir.
very welcome.
Thank you.
I hope that we
Thank
can
you
work
for being
something out.
upfront.
Yes,
Of
thank
course.
Like I said, the company's done us a good job.
Well, thank you for saying that. We
Good job
appreciate
over the
that.
last-
Thank you very much.
last number of
Appreciate
years.
that.
Very
Nice to
good.
meet you.
It was my pleasure.
Nice to meet you.
My pleasure. Thank you. So, Ms. Egan, you'll just keep on emailing
Yes.
Jim and,
Yes, I'll copy you on that.
copy me on it.
I know he's going through, some personal situation. Thank you.
Okay. And good luck. I hope it turns out better than it is right now.
You've been doing a terrible job tonight. Thanks again.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Good night now.
And I know.
Okay, old business number 4, which is an update on the Peabody Essex Museum Collection Center. Bob Snow attended a private tour of the Peabody Essex Museum Collection Center at 306 Newburyport Turnpike last week. He met with museum officials and Salem Mayor Kim Driscoll.
Yes, there was the director, Mr. Dan Monroe, the head of the Board of Trustees, Ron Shapiro. Mayor Driscoll from Salem was there, and the facility, which is right on Route 1, what they did was took the old shilling toy and they built a warehouse within the warehouse, and it's environmentally controlled. And anything they can't put in the Peabody Essex Museum, this is the collection center. So they brought again over to here to Raleigh, and in there all the artifacts that they can't display, or I imagine, and it's from what they told me, it's about 40% filled already. The collection center. They broke us up into, there were 80 people there, and I thank them on behalf of the Board of Selectmen and our chairman.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. I thank them for coming to Raleigh, and I think it's going to be beneficial to the town. I really
Yeah, I
do.
think so,
And it's Peabody Essex Museum, and they call it the PEM, okay, which I didn't know. And it is the 15th largest museum in the country. And as we walk down through the corridors, you could see in each one of the rooms they have environmentally controlled, and they would have workers working on different artifacts. And there was some very interesting artifacts there, and they took us down into one section, and they showed us a mastodon tooth. Now, I always thought mastodon was, as I told the chairman, I always thought they were up in the Bering Seas, or they were in Alaska, in that area. They found this particular mastodon tooth right here in Ipswich. years and years and years ago, so.
The sand pits.
Hmm?
It's the sand pits where they found that, and, you know.
That I didn't know, and you're.
And they also found, I actually met the widow of a paleontologist, and they found a celt that's from up near the Bering Sea. So it's like it's very interesting that they found it in those same sand pits, and I guess it proved that they actually traveled from that area of the world right here to Ipswich.
Yeah, in 10,000 years ago, the ice sheet was down this, I think, farther south than here, into New Jersey area and in the center part of the country. But moving on and just going through the museum, so many artifacts. I just happened to, I was going by and I said, "Is that a Picasso?" Yes, just happened to go by a door. They were working on it. It was really neat. Again, I think it's going to be a boon to the town. It was really a pleasure to go there and to welcome them, and they put a little, again, little show on for us, and they broke us up into about 4 or 5 groups, and then took us for a tour. It's not open to the public, okay, because this is just a collection center, and this was just a thank Rowley for being here. So.
So it will be open to the public. It's Monday through Fridays.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. There is a research room in the front of the building that they have, and if anybody has been in a research center, I've been in a couple of archives, many archives, I should say. You go into the reading room or the display room, and you got to wear gloves. Any document that you touch, and there's always has to be somebody there with you, and they put the artifact in front of you. So that will be open. There will be specific hours for that.
It's one of the great library collections in the country. It has 1 mile of linear manuscripts and documents. It's some of the best representation, documentation from families in this part of the country from before this was a country.
And Peabody himself, he donated something back in the 1840s, 1850s, something like $15 million, which was an enormous amount of money. He was a financier, and he ended his days actually in London, and then his body was brought back. But he lived there for the majority of his life in London.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you.
Good. Little history lesson for tonight.
Old business 5 is to sign the state liquor license form for Andy Sunny Inc., 21 Main Street. The ABCC returned with no action the application for a transfer of package store wine and malt beverages license from Andy Sunny. The applicant's attorney has provided the documentation requested by the ABCC. The other issue raised by the ABCC is the application is confusing in the sense, is this also a change of location? If so, the board did not approve so on the Form 43. When the public hearing on this application was held, the applicant's attorney discussed how this was a transfer of a license and that the new location was a smoke shop down the street. Therefore, the board's approval of the transfer included the change of location. The application form submitted to the board only checked off transfer of license. It did not check off change of location. The local licensing authority review board that the board the Form 43 that the board signed mirrored the single transaction type submitted on the application form. The applicant has submitted a revised application form with both the transfer and the change of location boxes checked. A new local licensing authority review record has been prepared with both boxes checked as well.
I'll give you a motion, Mr. Chairman, to sign the motion.
Okay, you don't
Second.
Want me, you're not going to let me finish?
No.
This is scintillating. Okay.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
Nothing personal.
No, I appreciate that. So we have to,
So you sign on the bottom left, the local licensing
just one place?
authorities.
Okay, finally, old business number 6 is an update on the annex elevator project in the town hall handicap ramp project. We have the funding for the replacement of the town hall handicap ramp and the annex elevator project. Debbie is looking to move forward with these projects and is requesting approval of the CBI Consulting Inc. agreements, which is a contract amendment for the elevator ramp project, not the elevator, of $17,468, and an agreement for the town hall ramp, construction plans, bidding, and construction administration in the amount of $9,350. These funds were included in the appropriations. Anything further you want to offer, Debbie, or?
No, we'd just like to move forward on that and get the architect working on the design plans. I'd like to start that.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed, the ayes have it. Okay.
Where would that ramp be?
It'll replace the ones that are already in place.
In the back door?
Right, the one in the annex would be right exactly where it is now. The one out here would replace this one. Exactly.
Is it worth spending the money on that building?
We have to.
It's not sprinklered, it's
If we want to use the building, we have to be handicapped access. And the building is well worth it. The building is well worth it. We only use the first floor, understand?
I understand that.
And there are numerous exits. And number 2 is if we decide not to use that building, it's a historic building, and nothing deteriorates faster than an unused historic building. And we need the space. I
understand what you're saying. I'm thinking if you got half a dozen people, older age people in wheelchairs in the main area for lunch or whatever, and the copier in the hallway catches fire, there's not a chance they're going to get out of there.
Yeah, well, I mean,
they've got to go down the stairs.
We have the same problem here. You know, we have a meeting here with all kinds of people. We got all kinds of people. We don't have this building isn't sprinkled either. So we do the best we can with what we have, and it'd be nice if we had a nice new modern building, but we're already got people complaining about our modern police and fire station, so we're certainly not gonna spend money to build a new annex for the town hall at this point in time anyway. Maybe the next generation will, but.
Okay, we have minutes from May 7th to approve. Bob, you were absent for this meeting.
Yep.
Someone want to make a motion to approve
I'll
those
give you
minutes?
that motion.
Second? Any second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
Any motion for the 14th?
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Okay. Announcements. The pool at the YMCA Camp Cedar Mill on Weathersfield Street in Rowley is open for the summer season. The pool is free for Rowley residents. The hours are Monday through Friday from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. and on weekends from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. The band 3 Blocks East will be giving a free concert on the Town Common on Saturday, August 25th, 2018 at 6 p.m. Information on the Pine Grove School project is available on the town's website. The town has the following vacancies: Agricultural Commission Associate, Cultural Council, Council on Aging, Fence Viewer, 3 positions, Wood, Lumber, and Bark Inspector, Zoning Board of Appeals Associate, 3 seats, Parks and Recreation Committee, 1 seat, and Deputy Shellfish Constables, 2 positions. For more information on these positions, please contact the Selectmen's office at 948-2372. The Rowley Food Pantry is in need of donations. Donations can be left at the Rowley Public Library. The food pantry is open on Tuesdays from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. and on Thursdays from 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Give me a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it.
I have not been able to.